We are live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the October 10th work session of the East Hampton Town Board. Carol, would you please read the roll call?
Present.
Present.
Here. Present.
Present. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today's meeting will begin with a public portion where any member of the public may address the board on any topic. We ask that you please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. That will be followed by an update from the Stony Brook Southampton Hospital freestanding emergency room. We'll get a construction update, round 2 of the water quality requests for applications recommendations. We have Melissa Winslow and Billy Hayjack here for that. We'll have another review of the 2024 tentative budget with our budget director, Rebecca Hansen, Stephen Hand's Path Long Lane Roundabout, the storage policy for fisheries equipment, and amend Chapter 95 bicycle skates and surreys. Well, I haven't seen a surrey around town in a few years. So first of all, we have 2 folks signed up for public comment, and then I'll go to the phones and take a show of hands, anyone else who wishes to address the board. Prudence Carabine.
Good morning, all 5 of you.
Good morning, Prudence. Could you just back off the mic just a tad so it doesn't distort?
Like this?
Perfect.
Is that better?
That's perfect.
As a 75-year resident of Long Lane or Roberts Lane, I second the motion to put a circle at the end of Long Lane and Stephen Hand's Path intersection, because sadly during my growing up years, I was the first house with lights from that circle when there had been accidents, and people slide, and didn't see somebody without lights, and people have died on that in that area. And today it's tricky because you can't really see so well. So I please ask you to move ahead with that. The second thing I want to say, David Lease has brought up, my second home is the Farm Museum at North Main Street, and we have an exciting time there every summer with vehicles. Trying to get an emergency vehicle out in July and August is a riot, sometimes literally. And if you put kids on skateboards or people on motorized bicycles, it's just inevitable. At some point, somebody's going to have an accident. So I ask that at that area be carefully monitored by the police department and any others, so that those vehicles, which I understand cannot be licensed, are in some way or another discouraged. When I was a child, we had to cover our bathing suits and walk our bicycles through the town of East Hampton, the village of East Hampton, to get to the beach, because bicycles were considered vehicles. I don't know what they consider them now, but if they're in North Main Street, it's just going to cause inevitably a problem. So I appreciate you looking into that. And finally, I just want to say that Brian and I will be standing outside after this, because we are passing around a petition to recognize the Montauk Indian tribe as a nation. I have been working with Fred Thiel on this, and Fred has said if we get people from East Hampton, people from New York State who sign this, he will take me to Albany to hand it to Governor Hochul. The reason I consider this important is it's the town of East Hampton asking for the Montauk tribe to be recognized finally. Thank you.
Thank you, Prudence. And just a reminder to anyone who's not aware, we have designated Chief Robert Farrow of the Montaukets to be our Grand Marshal for our 375th anniversary parade, which hopefully it will not rain Saturday and we won't have to cancel it yet again. Brian Carabine.
Brian Carabine, 30 Roberts Lane, East Hampton. I am looking forward to the roundabout on Stephen Hance Path because the amount of traffic there is horrendous, and it is an intersection I use very often. If I'm going anywhere to the west, I always use that intersection, and it is horrendous most of the summer and almost all of the year. So I'm looking forward to that. And the second thing is the bikes on the sidewalk is creating a terrific danger to people, and especially the electric bikes. And I'm glad that you're going to be addressing that. And I think one of the things that my wife addressed before is when she was young, people didn't ride the bikes in the village because everybody knew that you couldn't ride on the sidewalks. People have forgotten that or never knew that. So I think what is necessary, especially around North Main Street, because I notice a lot of bicycles on the sidewalks, is we need to do some signage to improve the situation so people realize that they're not supposed to be riding on the sidewalks and run over people, which almost happens once in a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. That is completion of the list of those who've signed up. I'll take by show of hands anyone else who wishes to address the board. Also, we'll be going back and forth to the phone lines to see if there's anybody on the phone line. Yes, sir. If you'd please state your name for the record.
Morning, Rick Nersessian, 95 Runnymede Drive, East Hampton. And first, thank you
Sorry,
for...
Rick, could you just
Sure.
spell your last name?
Rick Nersessian, Nersessian, 95 Runnymede Drive, East Hampton. And first, thank you for your service. I thought I'd be speaking after the recommendations about the CPA for the water quality, but since I'm coming before, but my understanding is we probably won't be approved. We part of Lionhead Beach Association, and we have 2 ponds there that have become very algae bloom polluted. And on the assumption that we didn't get approved this time, what I just wanted to share with you, in Lionhead, we have both those 2 ponds and actually also Hog Creek. And I understand that these are not as public as other water bodies, but that's not our fault. They just happen to be within the geographic perimeters of the association. And we have tried a lot on our own to do things. We actually raised $8,500 just to make the application to do the studies. And I guess what I want to share with you, if we're not approved, I still want to say, both as East Hampton Town and the trustees, we do have to figure out how to address this. And it can't be a responsibility of just the homeowners there. And first, as you know, we don't own the water bodies. And these 2 ponds are quite polluted. And we've also done a lot of things for Hog Creek. So it's just more to alert the council, the board, that if not, what else can we do? At least one thing we know, we've had problems with the drainage, where they just go into those dry wells, the drainage things. That may be collecting and not draining properly and polluting the pond. I don't know, but that would be the highway. We call it the highway service. Right now, they're stretched for funds themselves. So the whole purpose of my talk is just to say, please, want to put it on record that we need to do something for these 3 water bodies, or at least the 2 that we put in for the application. And if the money's not approved, what else can we do? Because we just can't let the situation continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Valerie Palmieri, resident of 111 Runnymede Drive. And I'm also going to discuss, I know that we have not been approved. I saw the material. I am a scientist by trade, and knowing the situation here in East Hampton, there's several water bodies that have had issues. Here we have a very dense population in terms of half-acre lots, old septic systems. We have the perfect storm of, repeated septic systems that are old, on top of a situation with 3 water bodies. 2 of the 3 have serious situations. Last year in fall of 2022, the toxicity in the pond was 5 times the drinking water standard. In May and June of 2023, according to DEC standard, the cyanobacteria was 16 times higher than the standard. This was higher than any other body of water in Long Island by Dr. Gobler. So what is the path forward? 2 out of the 3 bodies, Hog Creek also had issues, but it's being remediated, but 2 out of 3 have issues. We have made a ploy. I've led 2 awareness sessions for IA systems. We now have 10 plus that increased the number. We are the perfect poster child to encourage IA systems to show what we can do to turn around and measure the difference. But yet, we put together a 5-point plan. We were never told these water bodies were not a priority. We were never told that we had no chance to get these things approved. Never came back and said, okay, if we can't approve this, we can do this. Here we have an engaged community that wants to engage, that wants to make a difference. So I just look to the board to say there has to be a path forward, and we could be your potential poster child based on the density of our population. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Valerie. Jason, do we have any callers on the line?
We have a variety of callers on the line. Let me unmute the first one and get this going. So,
I'll switch back and forth between callers on the line and those in the room.
okay. So caller ending 9015, you are on the air. Can you hear me?
Good morning. My name is Michael Hansen, and I live in Wainscott. I am speaking today as a only resident of East Hampton Town. Long Lane and Stephen Hand's Path is a dangerous spot of road. My wife used to work on Long Lane at a farm there, and I drove there too, to drop off the kids or pick up the kids, so we are familiar with attempting to turn left and go south on Stephen Hand's Path to get home. And while the posted speed limit is 30 miles an hour, this is often ignored by the folks behind the wheel of their car or truck going north or south on Stephen Hand's Path. And they are not too keen on slowing down to let you in. This intersection, this Long Lane intersection, reminds me of Buell Lane and Toilsome Lane in East Hampton Village, where 114 ends. And trying to cross that intersection was a mess and a danger. The roundabout there is an absolute success, and I am happy for it. What else is great about the proposed roundabout at Long Lane is that it is an effective use of design to moderate traffic. So you don't need a stoplight. You don't need a police cruiser parked out there. Drivers are going to slow down because of the roundabout, and it just makes life a little bit safer on the road. I support this project 100%, and thank you for moving it forward.
Thank you for calling, Michael. Next person, yes, sir.
Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Craig Van Sickle from Springs. I just wanted to quickly say that I think it's maybe going to be discussed more, but that I fully support all of acquisition that is feasible and possible in the Stony Hill Woods, both for aquifer protection and for the archaeological legacy of the First Nation people that are, our forebears here. That's a great resource, the sole source aquifer, and perhaps more of our focus on that area for acquisition should be considered. Basically, that was it.
Okay, thank you, Craig.
Okay, thank you very much.
Let me next caller.
Thank you.
Caller ending 0976, you are on the air.
Hi, thank you. This is Scott Beck, and I live at 12 Old Two Holes of Water Road, which is very close to the intersection of Long Lane and Stephen Hand's Path. I've been a resident for over 30 years, and quite frankly, it's taken me 30 years to write this email, but I've got kids who are now driving ages, and I worry every time they say, Dad, I'm going to take the car and go to town. And that's because I know that they have to navigate the intersection of Long Lane and Stephen Hand's Path, which I think we'll all agree, and I'll use an extreme term, it's a nightmare, and dare I say it's a death trap. And I hold my breath when my kids say they're taking the car. I hold it for a while and wait for the phone not to ring, meaning that they've navigated the intersection safely, and especially during summer months. And even though there are stop signs on two corners, I think those who have already testified and those on the board who drive through this recognize that rarely do people obey the rules. It used to be whomever was going straight had the right of way, and now it's sort of whomever has the least patience. And that cars are traveling on even-handed path, and they're going around other cars waiting, who are waiting their turn patiently. As an experienced driver, I have trouble with this intersection. I've seen it, and I'm sure we've all seen it so many times. People honking, people scared to move, people sort of inching out, trying to sort of play chicken with the whole intersection. And so this idea of inexperienced drivers like my kids scares the heck out of me. And, you see the signs all over town, drive like your kids live here. That intersection, nobody drives like their kids live here. And so I fully support and beg and plead for a traffic circle to be at that corner to prevent what I am confident are numerous accidents and sometimes probably even worse.
Thank you for calling, Scott. And I'll take show of hand. Anyone else? Sass?
Good morning, Town Board. Thank you so much for hearing us. As the head of Amagansett Springs Aquifer Protection, I want to profusely thank the Town Board for preserving the Smolean lot at the end of LaForet Lane. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Not only is this a lot on the high moraine and thus incredibly important for the natural filtration of water to the Stony Hill Aquifer, the source of water for over 2/3 of the people of the town of East Hampton. But it is also right next to an amazing settlement of the Montauk Indians and the 23 wigwams that are within. If that had been developed, it would have cast a pall on the entire future archaeological preservation of this fabulous piece of East Hampton history. The Montaukett history of East Hampton has been sadly neglected, and nowhere is it more glaring than at 90 Stony Hill Road, a site that contains what looks like graves and unquestionably Montaukett wigwams. This lot needs to be protected by the town, not only because it sticks way out into the upper high moraine of the forest, and thus is incredibly important for keeping the aquifer clean, but could also be a terrific source of poison for the aquifer. It also juts out into the forest and would be a jarring incursion of humanity into the preserve, as is the lot off of Timber Trail that now hangs over the great kettle hole of the Stony Hill Woods, ruining this once pristine place for all the townspeople of East Hampton. The owner of 90 Stony Hill Road has told me to bring him an offer, and I would love to do that, but we need the town's help. 3 of his neighbors and myself are willing and able to augment a town offer by hundreds of thousands, but we need the town to step up. We can't preserve this lot by ourselves. We need the town to make an offer which we will augment. There has never been a more deserving property for preservation than this one. It is surrounded by preserved land and would add another level of protection by all those town for all those town citizens in Springs and Montauk, not to mention Amagansett and Napeague, who depend on this aquifer for their water. Please, please, town board, consider this and do the right thing here and preserve this lot, not only for its immense aquifer protection value, but also its incredible history containing possible graves and unquestionable Montaukett wigwams. Thank you, thank you, thank you for what you did at the end of LaFarette Lane. Thank you. I have some pictures, and I'd just like to give you some information, if I might, if you'd like me to do so, if now or whenever you'd
Please.
like.
Yeah, you can approach the dais or hand them to the town clerk.
Sure. I just wanted to read one quick thing from this, just to focus on this. This is from Lori Billadello, who was a board member of the Suffolk County Archaeological Association. And she's talking about a whole Stony Hill study that she did. And she speaks, of particular interest are the rounded depressions that dot the landscape. These house rings appear to have berms, high perimeters composed of excavated soil, and lower areas of ingress-egress. A few of the rounded depressions do contain superficial 20th century cultural material. Archaeological trenching across the depressions might reveal construction methods, associated cultural material, natural formation details. And then she goes on to say, also of interest are the property lime, a few isolated earthen mounds containing cobble-sized stones and gravel were also visible. Although the mounds do not resemble the rock cairn burials of Fort Hill, Montauk, their true definition is unattainable without further infield research. As early as 1840, David Gardner referred to small mounds which designated the ground where many a brave has his resting place. The historic reference, that's the Chronicles of East Hampton, reprinted in 1871. This historic reference to small mounds being Amerind burials indicates that these earthen mounds should be investigated as possible burial sites. So let me give you guys a few of these things. This is Lori's porch. And
To the clerk. You can leave those and we'll distribute them, Sass. We can just, yeah,
Sure.
just hand me whatever you have.
Okay.
We're in a bit of a time crunch here as we have presenters that have other obligations.
Thank you for your time, you guys. And then these are just some of the pictures of what we think are burial mounds.
Thank you.
On the hillside.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for what you guys did. So I'll just let other folks speak. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Sass. We could go to the phones for another caller, please.
Absolutely. And
Back to the room.
unmuting caller. Hello, caller ending 4221. You are on the air. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning, Town Board. This is Jane Nearing in Amagansett. I guess I can't help myself but to greet you this morning with chicks and ducks and yeast better scurry when I take you out in my surrey. If you know, you know. But to my topic today, I'd like to speak briefly about right-of-way street tree protection, particularly related to a piece of code I believe this, or I do recall this board proposed many months ago. Recently, I've been seeing, and I've also been given heads up by other concerned citizens about a fair amount, a lot of aggressive clearing on lots all around town, most of which look to be readying for or just starting new or redevelopment. Much of this activity involves the destruction of rather mature trees, including keystone species such as oaks and other valuable and natural species. I think this board and the community more broadly have a lot to consider about clearing overall. For example, what are the right clearing ratios of the code, if, how they should be amended, and also dealing with the antiquated and rather destructive perpetual designation of 100% allowable clearing that in large part harkens back to land that might have been farmed ages ago but have no chance of ever seeing active farming ever again, and in many cases have been revegetated. So I think, we need other creative ideas for tree protection codes, such as inventorying on surveys, mature trees of a certain caliper, and also ensuring that revegetation on properties is sort of like for like. Like if you cut down an oak or a maple or a white pine or a beech, you revegetate with an oak or a maple or a white pine or a beech. But for now, I'd like to make a specific suggestion that I think can be accomplished readily in the short term. I recall this board brought forth, I believe at the end of 2022 or 2023, a piece of proposed legislation to protect trees in the right-of-way, aka street trees. And forgive me, I did not go back to find the original introduction date, the work session date, and I think there was a public hearing, and I can't recall that date. In April, I reached out to the code enforcement to bring to their attention a large construction site on a property in the lanes of Amagansett where at least 20 trucks a day for months on end were parking on top of mature tree root systems mere inches from the tree barks. At one point, I witnessed a contractor hacking off limbs of some of those mature trees in the right-of-way so that taller vans could be squeezed in between. In response to that request back in April, I was told that actually the legislation the board had drafted that would have protected these trees from this type of abuse or worse, being cut down, was never formally adopted. So if I may, I'd like to urge you to bring that proposed code amendment back for either another work session so we can all look at it with fresh eyes or schedule another public hearing if necessary, hopefully by the end of this month, and would love to see you vote to adopt that piece of legislation as soon as possible so we can educate contractors, developers, and more importantly, so this type of code can be enforced. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Ma'am, in the side there, you wish to address the board?
First of all, again, like Alex, I'd like to profusely thank you all for getting that land, the last tract of land that you did.
Who are you?
And I am Munsit, Sunksqua of the Montauk tribe of Indians. And I'd just like to thank you on behalf of the Montauk Indians for all that you've done for us. I found it very enjoyable to walk up there in the woods, really, and see the mounds and the graves, and it is very indicative of an Indian village. And I really feel as though under the circumstances, we'd like to have those graves investigated and make sure that there are no bones in there from any of our ancestors before anybody decides to build anything over it, and that again be erased from our families, our Indian families. And, this way, we feel a lot better about what's going on. There were a couple of neighboring graves to that are a little near Alex's property, and we'd also like to take a look at them. But if you will preserve the land, we can, without disturbing the graves, we can take a look at them and see if there are any bones in them that are Indian. And I thank you so very much.
Thank you, Munsit. Any other callers on the line, Jason?
Yes, we do, and I'm unmuting now.
And then I'll come back to the room.
Hello, caller ending 8764. You're on the air.
Good morning. This is David Buddha. I will be watching with interest the discussion during the work session concerning the proposed round 2 grant recommendations for water quality from the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee, and I wanted to raise a couple of questions, and I hope that they will address these during the course of that presentation. It seems to me that I'm a little confused as to why we are in the business of using public funds, basically tax dollars from CPF, the 20% set aside, to replace failing commercial septic systems. At least under the old code, even before we had innovative alternative septic systems, if a system was failing, it was determined that it had to be replaced. And a failing system it's not optional whether or not it needs to be replaced. It's obligatory, it's mandatory, and therefore it probably should not even be considered for public funding, even to the 50% extent that you do in an area that is located outside of priority areas. So I'd like the presenter to address that question. Secondly, with regard specifically to the 177 Amagansett Main Street, there seems to be a discrepancy in the amount that is being proposed to be awarded. In one case, the text says $109,000 and change, and the other one says, in the actual table, it says $100,500. So I think there's a typographical error there that needs to be clarified. Assuming that 109,639 is the correct number, and it's not just some kind of confusion with the same number being suggested for the Springs General Store, I'd like to have the presenter also explain why there's been a 30% increase in the proposed recommendation from the September 2022 recommendation that apparently did not bear fruit because of a change of ownership. I can't believe that in 1 year we've had a 30% increase in septic replacement costs. At least I hope not. So those are the questions with regard to 177 Amagansett. And also I would ask that the presenters give a full explanation as to why the town is proposing to spend $200,000 in a delicate area that needs protection, but to benefit primarily a luxury series of 6 or 8 cottages at the south end of Montauk. It would seem to me that the protection of the high-end resort is not something that should bear $200,000 of public funds. And lastly, with regard to the Spring General Store, again, another area that's deserving of protection, it seems to me a little disingenuous to determine that there's been no proposed increase in intensity of use. As you know, if you have a situation where a project has as a purpose to permit or accommodate new growth, it should not be included in the funding. We're taking a proposal to allow on-site consumption of bottles of wine sold at a wine store, and if that's not an increase in if that's not a new growth use at the Springs General Store that's being proposed, I don't know what is. And that's my time, so I thank you. I'll look forward to the discussion. I hope that these clarifications can be addressed, or the need for clarification can be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Due to time constraints, I'm going to, after the next speaker, suspend the public comment until after the presentation of the first agenda topic due to the time constraints that presenters have in getting to an event. So, yes, sir. If you'd like, please come to the podium. State your name for the record. And then after the next presentation, we'll resume public comment if anyone else wishes to address the board.
Good morning. My name is Richard Smolian. I live at 49 Lafayette Lane, and I am the latest example of the town's incredible cooperation with SAS Peters and working with Scott Wilson in the acquisition of 45 Lafayette Lane, which we closed on just September 28th. I thank you for your cooperation. It was a long effort, and the cooperation of all parties. The result was obtained, being a twofold protection of the aquifer, which is so dear to SAS Peters, who has worked diligently over many years to protect it, and of course, the cultivation and the preservation of the cultural heritage of the Montauk Indians for the grave sites. Very important. It is very dear to them. They are fabulous folks, and they need support from the town in further acquisitions of lands that come available, the latest being 90 Stony Hill. So I support their effort, and I'm a good example of cooperation with the town and with the Montauk Indians to create a viable heritage going forward for the town of East Hampton. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Smolian. At this point, I would like to move on to our first topic. Again, we'll come back to public comment after this presentation if anyone else still wishes to address the board. We have with us today from Stony Brook Southampton Hospital, Dr. Fred Weinbaum and Sharon Meister. Also in the audience, we have Robert Ross, our Government Affairs Officer, and Barbara Jo Howard as well from the hospital. So it's nice to see all you folks. Dr. Weinbaum, I think the last time I saw you was when we were both working a COVID clinic together here in East Hampton. So it's nice to see you again under other circumstances.
Thank you very much. And it certainly was a great effort we all had together. And just to give you that background and having heard that, Stony Brook Southampton Hospital, our employees gave over 100,000 jabs to our folks in our primary service area. And we're really pleased and proud of the degree of penetration of vaccination in our immediate vicinity, which really did wonders to help our hospital recover from the pandemic. And what I'm going to talk about is the East Hampton Freestanding Emergency Department. And this is a project that started many years ago, over 10 years ago, actually. And there was a few interruptions we had, notably the pandemic that I just mentioned did throw us a little bit for a time loop delay, and certainly feeling like I was in a time machine for a period of time, unable to move forward, clearly unable to go back. Just to let you know how the project is going now, first I'd like to thank you, Peter, and the council members and the board for having supported the project as wholeheartedly as you have. And clearly, when we hear from all the comments being made about concerns about traffic and accidents, one of the core concerns we have as a hospital organization is being able to deliver the kind of care we want to deliver for the people in East Hampton. And this project represents an effort to help alleviate a lot of the concerns that people have about what to do when the traffic is intense and an accident occurs. We started the project January 13th in the middle of winter with make-ready operations, leveling the land, clearing it. In March, we were starting to dig for the pillars that were the foundation and uncovered an issue in the soil that was not expected. We found mud. Hey, it's something that exists in East Hampton. We had done soil borings, but we hadn't encountered it before, and it was right in a place where one of the borings was to be for our pillar supporting the foundation of the building. We were hit with an estimate for a huge cost for remediation, and we had to have at least 2 different consultants in to be able to come up with a project that was within our reserve to allow us to proceed. We were able to do that successfully, and the soil was finally completely remediated in August. The foundation and pillars were poured, and steel was started to be erected. Today, we are topping the building with a final piece of steel, and I think shortly thereafter, you'll begin to see the foundation, the platform, the sides, the roofing, and all the things that it will take to begin to say, hey, this is a real building going up right adjacent to your property. We anticipate that we're going to have substantial completion in the fall, and that following a period of inspections, and, you know, an emergency department has a lot of complex inspections, not the least of which is our laboratory is going to have to be certified as an independent laboratory by the state. But we do anticipate an opening in the winter of 2024. So substantial completion in the fall of 2024, opening in the winter of 2024. If there are any questions, this is part of our commitment to you, our commitment to the town, our commitment to the people of East Hampton, and we're looking forward to it. There are a number of hurdles ahead, not the least of which I think you're aware of the difficulty in finding employees who can afford to work and live in East Hampton, and securing affordable housing, as well as whatever it'll take to get people to make the commute. So we're in the midst of planning for that. We're working very hard to make that happen. Thank you for the time and attention that you've given. Thank you for your help.
Thank you, Dr. Weinbaum. And I just want to say it's long been the desire in East Hampton to have medical facilities such as this, and with the hospital planning to move further west, it became even more critical that we have this facility here in town, given the travel times over our single highway back and forth. This is really a critical piece of infrastructure and support for our community. And we saw, you know, the effects of a pandemic and how different things might have been if this facility had already been in place. You know, we scrambled around and put together our own clinic at the abandoned school, CDCH. But we know just on a daily basis, providing health care for our residents has become more and more of a struggle. And as you said, a lot of it has to do now, not just with the traffic and congestion, but also the ability for people who would staff these facilities to live in town. I know, meeting with the hospital board members, discussing the loss of physicians and physicians' aides between Montauk and Southampton, that when we met probably 9 months ago, the preceding 18 months had seen a 50% loss in staffing. And so I know that that's turning around now.
Turning around.
Which is great. We're very pleased to see that. I know Montauk now has a doctor again, which those in Montauk are really thrilled about. But we need to ensure that, you know, our community has this type of access, and we applaud you. Sylvia and I were on the board when the discussions with then Supervisor Larry Cantwell about lease, and Kathy Burt-Gonzalez came on as well. So we've, and then David Lease.
Actually, my first meeting, the resolution was to lease it to the hospital. That was my first meeting, and that was about 6 years ago. And to go through COVID and to actually see the superstructure now being installed and getting to a point where you could physically feel it, it's going to be a foundational change for healthcare in my hometown, the town of East Hampton. So for that, and working through COVID with the organization, it's been absolutely wonderful to see. So I really look forward to that transformation in our healthcare system in the town of East Hampton with a partnership with you. So I thank you very much for that.
I'd like to add one other comment, and that is part of having an emergency department that can provide the services that patients need is having a CAT scanner and an MRI on the site. In addition to that being available for emergency use, we will be able to make it available to patients for ambulatory services, so that people in East Hampton will no longer have to take that long trip in order to get high-quality imaging. So I think this represents, as you say, a watershed, and we're really very pleased and proud. I'd like to really thank Robert Ross and Sharon Meinster, who are here, who've done an incredible amount of work and effort in making this a reality. And Sharon and her team, and the folks at Lyro, who is our owner's rep, the Turner Construction Company, are all working together as a fabulous team to make this a reality. So thank you very much for the privilege of giving you this report.
I know it takes many, many years to have something like this come to fruition, and I just wanted to also state that I know a lot of the time was spent raising funds, both within the community and outside of the community, and I just want to thank all those who've made really incredible, some very large and generous donations towards this effort, community members, and as I said, some outside the community as well.
If I could just comment, we've also collaborated on the behavioral health initiative for South Fork, and we're grateful for that. And I guess we're also hoping that when the new freestanding emergency room comes to being, that there will be, facilities there for helping those that are having mental health distress.
Thank you for that comment. And Peter, the financial support that came from the community in East Hampton was superb. Now, I want to make a quick little pitch to let you and everyone know that that need continues. Nothing about the pandemic was easy, but the post-pandemic inflation that has occurred, the supply chain issues, all of which have increased our costs, as well as, what we said about having to incent people to be able to make a trip out to the east. We are going to need continuous support from the community. I think most of the community knows that and are engaged to a large extent. And we can't thank the community for everything that you've done to help make it possible for us to provide this service.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
We'll now go back to public comment. If there's anyone else in the room who wishes to address the board at this time. Yes, ma'am. Morning.
Wigan Kwakwao.
I'm sorry, could you pull the mic down just a little bit and repeat your name?
Sure. Wigan Kwakwao, Sadanya Napika Sichawak Natasuis, Mux Nachashayawak, Montauk Nachapayawak, Delaware Ta Mingo Tasutamawak Natap. My name is Sadanya Flowingwater. I am of the Wolf Clan. I am Sonsqua Wamonsut's Wolf Clan mother. I walk under the Montauk flag, and currently I reside in Delaware in Mingo Territory, which is out in Ohio, but I was born and raised on Long Island. So today, I have 2 points to make, and one is not necessarily on the behalf of the Montauk, believe it or not. It's actually on behalf of all you guys. So I have a friend, we walked and looked at 90 Stony Hill yesterday, and it reminded me so much of the endless mountains in Laceyville, Pennsylvania, where my friend owns about 33 acres. They had the most perfect water you ever tasted. And seemed like a small thing. They got offered a little bit of money to let people come and frack on their land. And before you know it, that water was no longer drinkable. They had to get a shed built, and the water had to be brought in. And it's still that way. The area is still gorgeous, but you can't drink the water. So for all the people that actually made that area their home, home is where the heart is. I think that you should strongly consider preserving that land, okay? First and foremost, for the people that are already there residing in that area. Keep that water pure and clean, and their home will always be so special to them. Now, on behalf of the Montauk, based on everything we know as Montauk, things we've learned from our elders, things we know from our tradition, our culture, our way of life. What I saw was Indian graves and wigwam foundations. And so technically, you know, if you were to remove that, we would almost swear that you would find some remains there because it looks exactly what we know to be as graves. So 2 reasons to preserve that land is for the homeowners that are there to keep their waters fresh and safe and clean. And the other would be because it is such a landmark, historical landmark. It would be so wonderful to keep that because I'm sure you have children that could be educated about the people that they read about, see on TV, but they can actually see these things. And it is worth preserving because each one is supposed to teach one. And so we can always think about the future generations and teach them their past, they'll absolutely know where they're headed. So thank you for listening to me today. It was a pleasure. I could tell this is a wonderful city still, and I thank you so much. Tabatni.
Thank you so much for coming in. Do we have any callers left on the line?
Yes, we do. Let me just unmute this caller. Hello, caller ending 1078. You're on the air. Can you hear me? Let me say I'm unmuting the second part. Hello, caller ending 10.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, the phone had a quick glitch there for a second, but you're loud and clear.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Tina Felix, and I am a member of the Lionhead Beach Association community. Good morning. I just want to second what Rick and Valerie brought to your attention regarding the algae blooms in Swan Pond and Pond Lane Pond. First of all, I want to thank the town. I know you guys have long been environmentally minded and go above and beyond in trying to preserve our natural beauty and our community. And as you know, Swan Pond and Pond Lane Pond are homes to, piping plovers and ospreys and swans and lots of marine life as well. My question to you is, who is responsible to continue to preserve these natural habitats and sanctuaries? And if not you, then who? Like, who's going to take care of these problems? I mean, I actually saw a swan get caught in the muck over the summer, which was just heartbreaking to me to see that is how the waters have turned in, what they've turned into. These algae blooms are not just harmful to our wildlife and our habitat, but they're also harmful to people. In addition to having that issue, apparently there are also some drainage issues that are just exacerbating the problems with the ponds there. So I would just please ask the board to consider the severity of these problems and to work with us in reaching a solution to these problems so that we can restore these ponds to their natural health and preserve our habitats and our nature sanctuaries and more broadly preserve the well-being of the people who live in the communities. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for calling, Tina. Anyone else in the room? Yes, ma'am. Morning.
Hi. My name
Just
is
pull the
Cerise.
mic down just a little bit. There you go. Thank you.
My name is Cerise Wintersong, and I just wanted to say that when we were looking at the wigwam spots and the grave sites, it brought such a sacred feeling for me and for my family. It was beautiful. We really need to do something about the grave sites because it seems like if there are people there, they're part of us as a culture. And we would need to protect that. 90 Stony Hill Road we saw, which was pretty amazing to see. Just the whole ambiance, as you would say, of the villages that was there, you know, is like a deep connection for us. And we just really would love for you to please save it because it's amazing. And we thank you for everything you've done for us. It's very, very special to all of us natives. Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to come in today. Do we have any other callers on the line, Jason?
We have no other callers on the line.
Is there anyone else in the room who would like to address the board at this time? We thank you all for participating today. We'll move back to our topics. Our second topic for today is the round 2 water quality request for application recommendations. We have Billy Hayjack, chair of that committee, along with Melissa Winslow.
Good morning, Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Good morning, Billy. Could you just adjust the mic up a little bit there? Thank you.
Good morning, Supervisor Van Scoyac and members of the board. Billy Hayjack, Chairman of the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee. I'm happy to be here with Melissa to present to you the recommendations for the second round of the 2023 RFA proposals. Not sure if we want to switch back and forth here, if you can.
Yeah,
sure, that's fine.
So Melissa Winslow, I'm a principal environmental analyst in the town's natural resources department. And I just want to thank Billy, our chair of our Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee, for being here today to assist with these recommendations. Get the slide to progress. Let's see, there we go. So this is our request for applications, or RFA, is a biannual process where the committee receives applications with enough detail to be able to review, score, and prioritize projects for funding awards. So this was the second round of the 2023 RFA. The request was issued on June 1st, and the applications were due August 1st of this year. Funding available was $2,244,308. So the town subcommittee and the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee conducted some thorough review of all of the 15 applications that we received. The applications were ranked on criteria for water quality benefits, cost, maintenance and monitoring, and longevity of the projects. So of the 15 applications that we received, 9 were complete and will be recommended for awards today, and 6 projects were not recommended. So this is a full list of all the applications that we received this round. The top 9 projects were deemed complete and received a score of 79 or higher and are being recommended for a funding award. These projects include 5 septic upgrades, stormwater abatement projects, a permeable reactive barrier installation, a wastewater infrastructure management project, and a sewer project. I do want to point out that Mr. Buda did identify a typo. This for 177 Main Street LLC, this is the correct amount of $100,500 being recommended for the award. The subsequent slide has a typo. And then projects that did not receive a recommendation, the 6 at the bottom, got a score of below 79 and were either not located in a priority area, did not propose a significant water quality improvement, or were not an eligible project. So the Water Quality Committee is recommending today awarding $2,244,308 out of the total requested funds from all these applications was over $8 million. So we can only recommend so many projects out of what was received. So the first project is a non-point source pollution abatement project presented by Clearwater Beach Property Owners Association. They're requesting funding to convert an existing asphalt parking lot at the Clearwater Marina at the end of Kings Point Road to permeable surface to reduce stormwater runoff. The existing lot is pitched towards the boat launch, and basically the stormwater is running off directly into Hog Creek right now. So the proposed permeable parking area is expected to reduce stormwater significantly, up to 15,000 gallons of runoff from a 1-inch rainstorm would be expected. And this represents a reduction of non-point source pollution in a priority area of Hog Creek and builds on other improvements in the area. The town funded a permeable reactive barrier project and macroalgae bioextraction the last year in 2022 through the RFA. And there's also been a good amount of septic upgrades on residential properties in the area. So they received a score of 80 out of 100, and the Water Quality Committee is recommending a 50% cost share award, so $63,446 to Clearwater Beach. This slide just shows a diagram that was provided by the applicant. So you can see it's a 25,000 square foot parking area, currently asphalt, and it's pitched towards the concrete boat ramp that you can kind of see on the left-hand side. And they're proposing a crushed stone replacement.
Melissa, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do we have any idea if we do the 50% match that they have the funding to do the project?
So typically, once we do the recommendations here today, I'll send out a letter to the applicant, letting them know that they were recommended for a project, and then we request that they send us back a commitment. At the bottom of the letter, we have a commitment. So basically, if we give you this money, will you continue with the project? And then we get that back before we go to the public hearing.
Okay.
So we don't put them on the public hearing if they're not going to proceed.
And there's also a certain amount of time they have to complete the project within, then too, or they lose the option for the funding
Yes.
from that award on there. On this specific design, coming down Kings Point Road, there is also a large topography. So it's a large catch area that runs into the water. So I think that's why the committee was discussing this too.
Yeah.
If it's okay, Melissa and I will switch back and forth, give ourselves a break. So the second project presented here is the Springs Presbyterian Church. So everybody's aware of the facility on Springs Fireplace Road. It's a community center. They host a series of public meetings, and it also acts as the Springs Food Pantry. This is a request for funding to upgrade the septic system to an innovative alternative treatment unit. And a green stormwater control system to direct runoff, or to redirect runoff so it's not entering Accabonac Harbor. I'm sure people are aware of the ponding issues that occur in and around that intersection. And this is a good addition to the work that's already been done in that little area with Ashwa Hall, which has received funding in the past too for improvements. So they're proposing to install a hydroaction treatment unit. The property, based on the plans, generates 1,478 gallons per day, and it's expected to be a pretty significant nitrogen reduction. We also feel that the stormwater improvements are a benefit, given the proximity to wetlands in that general area relative to Accabonac Harbor. The project scored a 90 out of 100, so it was a very high score. And the total cost is $322,200 as a not-for-profit. They're eligible for full funding, and we recommended full funding for the project. There's a sketch plan, shows sort of an aerial with the proposed septic improvement and the area for the stormwater abatement.
Can you just point out where the wetlands are on there?
Yeah, directly to
The drainage ditch?
This whole area is wetland up in here.
Hey, there's a stylus underneath the screen, I think. If you ever want to, you can always just take that and draw on the screen if you ever want to. And everyone at home can see exactly what we're doing. But that's cool, too.
Directly adjacent to the parking lot and just behind the church.
Thank you.
Yep.
That parking lot in spots is underwater after a significant rainfall.
Yeah, the stormwater abatement project is part of the Accabonac Harbor subwatershed management plan. So this is included in the water quality improvement plan as well. So the next project is a commercial septic upgrade in a priority area. This came from Faro Beach, Inc., and it's a septic upgrade at 3 South Lake Drive on Lake Montauk. It's a high-density residential parcel. It's 8 cottage units and 1 residence with a flow of over 1,500 gallons per day, and represents a reduction of 195 pounds of total nitrogen per year by upgrading to advanced treatment. I just wanted to address one of the comments that came up in the public portion. These commercial properties, especially in waterfront, represent some of the largest sources of contamination to our priority water bodies. So that is the reason why they're being recommended for funding. We will never fund fully a commercial project. They can get, if they're in a priority area, up to 65% of the installation costs that are approved. And if they're not in a priority area, it's 50% of the installation costs. So we want to provide enough of an incentive to motivate some of these waterfront commercial property owners to upgrade where they might not otherwise do so. So particularly to South Lake Montauk, this area has been targeted by the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee for outreach to incentivize applicants to upgrade due to known water quality impairments at South Lake Beach. It's been closed to swimming since 2005, so this is a high priority area. We do have some other projects going on here that this kind of builds on. The town has a project to reduce stormwater runoff and upgrade the comfort station at the South Lake Beach. Crow's Nest Restaurant actually came in a couple years ago and has upgraded to an IA system. And then there's been a few residential properties that have participated in the septic incentive program in this area as well. So they received a score of 92, which was relatively high. They're eligible, like I said, for 65% of the installation costs. So we're recommending $199,615 to Faro Beach. This is in a high impact area, 0 to 2-year groundwater travel time to Lake Montauk. This project is in the process of a site plan to legalize trellises and decks on the property, but there has been no determination that would require an IA system on this property, so it's a voluntary replacement. So this is just a site plan showing an aerial of kind of the proximity of the property to Lake Montauk, and then just the site plan showing where on the property the IA system would be.
And just to the north of that, just to the right of the blue, is actually the town comfort station that you're discussing.
Correct, yep. Yeah, so we are doing improvements on that property, doing some permeable pavement, restructuring the parking lot, doing a dry swale to capture stormwater runoff, and upgrading the comfort station to an IA system. And then actually the property directly north of that was one of the private property owners that has participated and upgraded to an IA system on their own.
What is the timing on the work at the South Lake Comfort Station?
So I'm waiting on final plans from our engineer, which I should be receiving any day now, and then we'll go out to bid, so I'm hoping for a spring 2024 install.
Thanks.
The next project is a commercial septic system upgrade to an innovative alternative system. It's at the Springs General Store site. The request was submitted as a septic upgrade and also a plan for, call it revegetation or landscaping. The consensus of the committee was that the revegetation component did not qualify for funding, so we're recommending funding purely for the septic system upgrade. It is a source reduction in a priority area, which is directly adjacent to Accabonac Harbor. And this site has been subject to prior awards with Cornell Cooperative Extension, where they've done some research and installed some water quality improvements in the past as well, so this sort of piggybacks off of that. The project received a score of 87 out of 100. The request was for $320,000. We believe the eligibility component of it was $109,000 and change, which is 65% of just the septic system installation costs, and that is our recommendation to the town board. It is a As you know, there's a site plan. Melissa, if you could advance
Yes.
it shows the proximity of the site to Accabonac Harbor. So it's clearly within the 0 to 2 year travel time. It's directly adjacent to Accabonac Harbor. And we think it's a deserving award.
To address the comment, it was discussed about intensity of use. The CPF water quality funds are specifically for increase in density. It can't be used for, is that correct? Not use.
And it's, so the allowable density at the site is 780 gallons per day. The system is designed for 526. So it's below, what they're proposing design for is below their allowable sanitary flow from a county health department standard. And they're also, the improvements are proposed. We don't know if they'll get approval for them or if they'll even act on it. So this is just for a septic upgrade for what exists today.
So before we go, just in full transparency to the board, this came in front of us a couple of years ago. I recused myself because even though I'm not a property, I'm a neighboring property, but not a property that touches the site on there. But I thought in full transparency, I would recuse myself. I will continue to do so in this one if it moves forward.
Yes, the Springs General Store did apply back in 2019 with our.
I'm sorry, not a Spring General Store. I thought you were on the.
177. Oh, this one, okay.
Yeah, that one. I
Can you
apologize.
just go back to Springs General Store? I just want to make it clear that regards to comments that were made, that the first application in 2019, I see received a recommendation, but was not awarded enough funding, so it's not that the cost has gone up?
For this project, yes, so they applied in 2019. The way that the Water Quality Committee back at that time, that was our first round ever of the RFA, was calculating based on the flow and normalizing that to our septic incentive program. And they were only awarded, I think, $23,000, which wasn't enough of an incentive to get them to move forward. So they declined.
Thank you.
Yep. So the next project is another commercial septic upgrade at 177 Amagansett Main Street. This is another actual reapplication. So this is for a failing on-site sanitary system. They reapplied. They were awarded funding in 2021, but the property has since changed hands, so their contract was voided. So they're reapplying. They would still like to move forward and do this water quality improvement project, the new owners. They're proposing replacement of grease traps and installation of 2 FujiClean units with a proposed flow of 3,240 gallons per day. This represents an improvement of 406 pounds of total nitrogen per year to groundwater. This property is not located in a priority area, but it's located in the groundwater travel time to the Atlantic Ocean. They do have an approved sanitary easement with the town to site the leaching fields in the adjacent municipal parking lot. So they received a score of 79, and they're eligible for 50% of the installation costs. So this would be $100,500. There is a typo on the screen. So this is a large-scale upgrade of a failing commercial sanitary system with benefits to groundwater and builds on other improvements in the area. The town, 2 or 3 years ago, upgraded the comfort station to an IA system. And just to touch on the comment about failed being required. So failed septic systems are not required to upgrade to a new system automatically. It's very hard to track failed sanitary systems. I know that the health department has been working on that and trying to take pumping receipts. So they're not automatically required to upgrade, but if they do choose to upgrade their sanitary system, it has to be an IA system. So that's where that trigger comes in. So this just shows the site plan and aerial and the location of the proposed system. You can see that the actual IA system is being proposed on the property, and then the leaching fields through the sanitary easement will be in the town adjacent parking lot.
The next project is another commercial sanitary upgrade to an innovative alternative system. This is the Harbor Marina property, which is located on 3 Mile Harbor. And it's a request for funding to replace a conventional septic system with an innovative alternative system. It serves a marina use, a restaurant use, and residential units. And they will all be on a single innovative alternative system. The total flow is 2,707 gallons per day, and it's expected to be a fairly large reduction in nitrogen of 323 pounds. They're proposing two hydroaction systems, and then, two systems for the site, one for the residents and one for the commercial use. I misspoke earlier. The project received a pretty high score of 91 out of 100. The request was for $115,455, and we believe it's eligible for $105,196, which is 65% of the installation costs, and we're recommending award of that. Again, it's a large-scale facility, and we think it's a good bang for the buck in terms of a significant reduction in nitrogen in a pretty critical area. And this is just a site plan. I think everyone's familiar with the location and the facility. Are there any questions?
So the next project is actually directly adjacent to the previous proposal that Billy was just speaking about. So this is for a permeable reactive barrier at 60 Harborview Lane. This request is from Cornell Cooperative Extension, and this will be a PRB installed behind a bulkhead on this private property, 60 Harborview Lane. The location was identified through as a hotspot of groundwater flow with high nitrogen inputs through a Peconic Estuary Program study that was being completed in the Sunset Cove area of 3 Mile Harbor. Groundwater high in nitrogen from diffuse sources up gradient is traveling downstream to the shoreline and then moving laterally along the bulkheaded areas to the south, so at Harbor Marina, and traveling to this location. The existing location here is degrading. It's a wooden bulkhead. So basically the high nitrogen groundwater is flowing right to this area and going into the 3 Mile Harbor as a preferential pathway. The property owner is replacing this bulkhead, and if awarded, will install a permeable reactive barrier capable of removing over 500 pounds of nitrogen per year. The bulkhead will be perforated below the surface of Lake 3 Mile Harbor to allow for the treated water that flows through the permeable reactive barrier to enter into 3 Mile Harbor. This is treatment of a legacy contamination in a priority water body. They received a score of 89 out of 100, and the Water Quality Committee is recommending an award of $198,000 to Cornell Cooperative Extension to install this PRB.
Can you just explain the maintenance on that?
So the maintenance, there's not much maintenance involved. Once the PRB is installed, it has a life of 30 years. They are proposing doing 3 years of monitoring. So they'll be installing ports within the PRB so they can determine the efficiency of the nitrogen reduction in the area and the success of the project. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much what this PRB is the last chance to stop this before it gets into subsurface water right now. Then for an area that is very dense, quarter-acre lots, many pre-existing non-conforming conditions and multi-density housing in that area then too that have not upgraded their septic systems.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's a last chance effort in the project to do so. Would I be correct in characterizing it like that?
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, the aerial on the screen actually shows the groundwater flow direction. So you can see all those parcels, all those high residential areas that are flowing directly down to the harbor and entering 3 Mile Harbor at this location. So it's kind of an ideal spot, especially with most of that shoreline being bulkheaded. It's really funneling all that contaminated water to this area. And we can see that from the image on the left with the nitrogen concentrations that were reported by Cornell Cooperative Extension from their study that was recently completed. The orange dot, which is the highest nitrogen concentrations, is this location.
So I just have a question. So it's Cornell Cooperative Extension will be constructing the permeable barrier? And then the maintenance will be, who will, since it's on private property, or is there an easement?
Monitoring going to be
For
done.
the
They'll have
monitoring?
an agreement, the Cornell Cooperative Extension will have an agreement with the property owner for access. Cornell will be doing the installation of the PRB only. The private property owner is responsible fully for the cost of the actual bulkhead replacement. And then ongoing monitoring will be completed by Cornell Cooperative Extension, and they've, solidified an access agreement with them. And then, ongoing maintenance of the bulkhead itself would be the property owner's responsibility.
And the, and the access agreement runs with the land?
Yes, yep. We actually have done that before with the Springs General Store project. Cornell actually did a PRB there, and the property changed hands, but there was a covenant on the property itself, so the project would continue forward.
Thank you.
And we've seen the agreement between Cornell Cooperative and the homeowner, or
I have
we
not
have
yet.
a copy
I
of
think
it?
it's dependent on them receiving this award.
Okay.
Second round.
Yeah. The next project I'm presenting is an automated decentralized wastewater infrastructure management plan presented by, or requested by, the New York Center for Clean Water Technology. And it's a proposal to install remote monitoring devices on innovative alternative septic systems to analyze their performance. So a monitor would be installed in the effluent area before it reaches the treatment facility, and then after the effluent passes through the treatment facility to measure the quality of treatment that's being achieved. It's a technology that was developed by the Clean Water Center for Technology. It's going to allow for continuous monitoring, and we think it's a very worthwhile endeavor. Right now, the county is responsible for monitoring, although the information that we receive from the county is spotty and, I don't want to say inconsistent, but we're not getting a lot of information. This is a great tracking mechanism to measure how these systems are performing, so that we can make recommendations to folks as to what systems work, which systems require some tweaking or may not work for that particular project. One of the conditions that the committee is going to request is that we review the area, the systems that where the technology is going to be used. So they're not just going to go out and install it. They're going to come to the committee and request or propose a system, and we're going to try to reach a broad range of systems for that. So it received a score of 85 out of 100. The request is for $112,000, $101, and we're requesting, we're recommending that money be awarded.
What is the life expectancy of that monitoring?
I believe it's 5 to 10 years, but I can confirm with our contact at the center. And I think this is an ongoing program that they're going to be, implementing elsewhere to try to track the efficiency of all these systems and ensure that they're working properly and allow for triage if there is an issue.
Through experience of trial and error, the village installed, through monies that were awarded by the town, an IA septic system at Herrick Park. It was one of the earliest designed commercial systems. And through trial and error, we realized that we had some odor problems. The system wasn't functioning really that well. We had a backup or multiple backups. Some of it wasn't the system's fault. Some of it was due to children dumping nails, flushing nails down the toilet. But regardless, what we learned is that, that system required what was called a dump tank or a traditional septic tank. So we went back and installed a traditional septic tank, and, the system seems to be functioning now, performing very well. I haven't actually been able to see the results of the water quality analysis from it, but we know we don't have an odor issue anymore. We don't have backups anymore. So we think this is the type of technology that's going to help projects like that in the future. So.
And this is our last project that we're recommending today. It's one you've seen before. So Sag Harbor Sewer Shed L is a project that received funding from the town through the RFA in previous rounds. They're proposing using excess capacity at the existing sewage treatment plant to hook up an additional 40 properties, which is the equivalent flow of 12,562 gallons per day, and would represent a total reduction of over 2,200 pounds of nitrogen per year. So the Village of Sag Harbor came in this round with a request for additional funding to move the project forward, as they were not awarded outside grant funding. So in order to get this project off the ground and, start construction, they're requesting any additional funding available. They're also requesting that the funding previously awarded in the first round of this year through the RFA for the street to home hookups, so basically from the road piping in the street onto the property, excluding any internal plumbing modifications, be repurposed for the general project, so they can complete as much piping as possible with the funding that they've been able to secure. This entire project is located in the Water Protection District of Sag Harbor Bay within the Peconic Estuary, and will have a large impact on reducing a large source of a priority pollutant in a high density area. So this round of the project received a total score of 88 out of 100, and the Water Quality Committee is recommending funding the remaining funding available this round to the Village of Sag Harbor in the amount of $1,033,611 to move this important municipal project forward. If awarded this funding, they will have around $3 million to kick off this important project and start construction. So this is just showing some diagrams that was provided by the village. So the left is the Sewer Shed L street piping. So this area basically is filling in the gaps of some areas that weren't previously sewered. The yellow hash mark is areas that are already hooked up to the sewer. And, some of these are waterfront properties. There's a school building, commercial building, residential, so it's kind of mixed. And then on the right is the parcels that will be connected in the red outline. So in East Hampton, there'll be 33 parcels, in Southampton, 7 parcels within Sewer Shed L. So they requested funding from Southampton for the other side of the project. So just in summary, the Water Quality Committee is recommending awarding 9 projects today, in total $2,244,308. And we will be noticing the first round of the 2024 RFA in December, and it will be due February 15th applications. And the Water Quality Committee is currently working on some slight modifications that we would like to implement in 2024, so we'll be coming back this fall to make those recommendations to the board for changes. Is there any questions?
Questions for Melissa or Billy?
Yeah, just, can we go back to the Springs General Store? So at the very top, the allowable density flow is 780 gallons per day, and they're proposing 526. Mm-hmm. So what are they getting rid of to not produce that?
So the 526 gallons per day is their existing flow. Their density calculation at the health department, what they're allowed, is the 780.
So, okay, so to be clear, so they're giving up something, though?
Not something that's existing. They're giving up basically what the difference between what they're existing and allowed, I guess.
Okay, so they will adhere to this 526?
Correct,
and
yeah.
not try to move it up because they're allowed by Suffolk County to do that?
Right. The flow of this proposed system is for 526 gallons per day.
Okay, but
Which is
that
what they generate currently. That's their existing flow.
Okay, that's their existing flow.
Yep.
They're allowed more, but they're not using the more, and that's part of what the contract would be for accepting this money.
Yep, yeah, the contract is for the project as proposed, so it's for 526 gallons per day.
Okay.
So in closing, I want to thank Billy, first of all. Billy, this is his first year being the chairman of the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee. It's not always the most enviable position, but it's a position that you've gone through now 2 RFAs right now with class and dignity. And I want to thank you very much for leading that committee, particularly when it goes into funding recommendations for taxpayer monies right now. You did it was wonderful to watch you move forward and chair that committee, Billy. So I want to make sure personally you understand that for myself. I think I speak for the board on that then too. Melissa, you always know that too. But Billy, thank you very much for stepping into that position this year. And we hope we continue on with you too.
Thank you.
So next steps, schedule public hearings.
Next step, we're going to look to schedule a public hearing. We'll put it on for the 19th, and the public hearing would be on the 2nd. And then we'll hear from the public on what the presented projects are. Again, myself personally, I will recuse myself from the. We'll discuss this with legal, how we might do it. It might be 2 public hearings, so I don't have to recuse myself from all of them, but from at least proportional to one of them, okay?
Yeah, I would think we want to break them up individually.
Yeah.
So we're going to vote on them individually, right?
Yes, so maybe the set amount and then take out the 177.
Okay.
Rob will discuss that, get that set.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We now have Rebecca Hanson here, our budget director, to lead us through the next installment of the tentative budget.
I could just cut Becky's time for a second. I would support the roundabout as well. I use that intersection probably every day, sometimes twice a day. And I won't reiterate what all the other speakers said, but it's a frightening situation sometimes. And I think, personally, I think a roundabout would be a win for
I know it
traffic
well
safety.
because I travel it every day, multiple times a day. And, yeah.
Thanks.
So again, we have, I released the tentative budget a week ago Friday. We've had one work session discussing the budget. Board members have had an opportunity to go through it. There've been a couple other additional adjustments and requests, and Becky's here to run us through them.
Sure, I'll just run through some of the initial numbers that we talked about with the tentative budget. As proposed, it contains $95.4 million in spending, which is an increase of $4.7 million, or just over 5% on the expenditure side. It is under the New York State tax cap by just over $41,000. Once we calculated in with pension exclusion that we have, that was an increase in the property taxes of just over $1.9 million. Tax rates have increased slightly. We're looking at 1.6% for those living outside of a village, and those living inside the village is either East Hampton or Sag Harbor Village. The proposed tax rate increase is 7.9%. The current equalization rate for the town of East Hampton is at 37%, which means that a house with an assessed value of $4,000 has a market value of just over $1 million. Outside of the village, by using those tax rates, taxes would increase by $21.29, and those inside the villages would be $40.13. So at last week's work session, there was a request to increase funding for the Montauk nutrition program by $10,000 that the board was agreeable to. We've also uncovered just a few minor glitches salary-wise because our budget software can be quirky at times. So there's just a handful of those adjustments that need to be made, including the additional $10,000. So we are still under the cap. And a few requests have come in actually over the weekend from other departments and some members of the board. So what I would like to propose for your consideration today is if there's anything else today that you want to bring up, I will happily come back to next Tuesday's work session and do a final review of where we stand with the requests that have come in, see where that leaves us within the tax cap, and for the board's final review before we move to notice for a public hearing on the preliminary town budget. So I would request that either any council members or department heads, if you have any other suggestion, recommendation, thought, please get that to me by no later Thursday morning. That will give us enough time to go through, make any adjustments, run the numbers against the tax cap, and to make sure that we are still under the tax cap, and if there are any other adjustments that we need to make. And I will come back again next Tuesday and present that formally for the board for your review.
So last call, Thursday.
Thursday morning, last call. So I don't know if there are any other questions for
a.m.
board members or concerns moving forward with the proposal, so.
Board members have anything else to add at this point?
Okay, and again, we talked about, oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Sure.
I would, I was hoping that we could put money in for training and professional development for staff. I know we've talked about that in the past. The Department Heads Association has requested it, as well as conversations I've had with members of the CSEA. And that would be helpful to put monies in for that for next year. And also for continuing education for appointed board members. I know that they're required every year to do a certain number of hours. I don't know if we've picked that up since COVID, and it would be helpful to have monies in for that. I know Rob has been exploring Pace University School of Law Land Use Institute. Other municipalities have had them come in. So that would probably be a request for about $5,000. And then the training and professional development for staff would be somewhere, I guess, in the $15,000 range.
We have, working with Kathleen Rood, who is the department head for human resources, she has reached out to dedicated professional development firms to come in and work with department heads. And so we do have a proposal for that, and we can add that in, obviously, with the board support. And again, just taking a look where that brings us within the tax cap. And if, the town attorney's office has a proposal that they want to send over, we can determine how to best allocate that. If it's for the appointed boards, obviously, then it would be a B fund expense.
And I don't think we've ever turned down a training request for any town employees or departments.
No, not
since I've been here in 12 years.
Yep.
So that's something we certainly have supported all along.
Okay, great.
We even have a resolution on today.
For training? Pretty much every meeting, there's one for training for someone somewhere.
This is something to have, professionals come in and do it as a group, coming into the, into conversation with Kathleen is how.
Yeah, understand.
we
I know
envision
we've
it.
done that for SECRA in the past, having outside counsel come in and present
Right.
the planning and
Yeah,
various
for the
boards and
for
that
the
sort of
appointed
thing.
boards,
So,
yeah.
anything else?
No, everything was minor, and Becky, you have it all for myself.
Right, and I'll come back again Tuesday, and then at next Thursday's meeting, Carol can schedule the notice of public hearing, which again will run in the newspapers the following week, and then the hearing will be at the first November meeting. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, which I think is the 2nd of November,
Yes.
right? Thank you, Becky. Next up, we have the Stephen Hands Path Long Lane Roundabout. We've already heard from members of the public today, a number of them.
Okay.
So it's been an intersection of concern for the town for some time. And I believe we've had previous discussions about this. We've now gotten initial planning stages, and we have with us today Ray Tobias from LK McLean Associates Outside Engineering, and Ray, you're traffic flow expert, and we look forward to your presentation. And I want to thank Councilman Lees for spearheading and moving this along.
Thank you.
As I take my life into my own hands every day when I cross it, so I'm well aware of that intersection.
Yeah, so just to set it up a little bit where we're at right now, the town board has started discussing this potential intersection improvement, which is a couple years back. It's a known intersection on a horse and carriage road, Stephen Hands Path, that actually has now only intensified in its everyday use as far as vehicle trips. And we're looking at increasing potential safety on there. Also with Ray Tobias, we have Brendan Clinch that's here also from LK McLean Associates. Morning. And we're working with Jim Peterman. I don't know if he's on. Jim is just post.
Is he on the line, Councilman Least?
If it's not Jim, it might be Stephen Lynch.
I'm going to let them in. I'm going to admit them in, and we'll figure out from there if that's okay with you. I don't want to interrupt anything.
Thank you very much.
All right, cool. And let me unmute. Well, I'm waiting for the person to unmute right now. I let them into the room for 2 seconds, but they seemed to have another conversation going on at the time, so I didn't want to, have that blasting into the meeting. If they need to be unmuted or whatever, and if they contact us, we'll walk them through the steps.
Okay, thank you so very much. So again, as the supervisor stated, in working with Steve Lynch, who is the superintendent of highways, and looking at these properties, the properties and the location, we're trying to devise the safest, but also within the best character of the neighborhood community design that we have. I have spoken with Chief Sarlo, and his statements to this intersection has become very dangerous and challenging location for motorists with a heavy volume of traffic using Stephen Hand's Path, particularly during rush hours, while school buses and parents' school drop-off traffic, it is at its height, making a left out of Long Lane and crossing over 2 holes of water has become almost impossible and a risky maneuver. Similar roundabouts in Southampton town have proven to be safe and effective ways of keeping traffic flow moving while allowing better access to main thoroughfares. As a father, also leaving school there and repeating what one of the previous callers said, leaving Long Lane and making a left out of there is very dangerous right now.
And it may be even worse coming from 2 holes of water.
Yeah.
Just going straight or making a left.
Exactly. So we're looking at this as taking safety first approach through a design of a well-used intersection. I'll leave that to Ray DeBias.
Okay, thank you very much. And I got to say, it's a pleasure to see everybody here in person, the entire board. Brendan's going to be running the slides, so as I'm talking, he'll advance the slides. We'll go right to the first slide. This presentation is not very long, but it gives you a general idea of what's been preliminarily designed and what thought has gone into it in terms of safety improvements. So first bullet there, project, the intersection, Stephen Hand's Path, Long Lane, and 2 holes of Water Road. The existing intersection is stop controlled, and I'm going to talk north and south. And when I say north and south, Stephen Hand's Path running north, and Long Lane and 2 holes of Water Road running east-west, even though if you look on it on a map, it's not exactly that, but it's easier to keep track of it that way. Excuse me. So there's stop signs only, as I mentioned, on 2 holes of water and Long Lane, which cross the intersection. And we've heard already difficulty of left turns coming out of Long Lane. Part of the problem is there's a sight distance restriction. When you're sitting at the stop line, you look to your right, and there's vegetation there, which makes it difficult to see. You have speeds of the vehicles on Stephen Hand's Path. And when you make a left turn out of that intersection, in particular a school bus, you're first, you look left and right. If you're a school bus driver, you get out to the intersection, you've got a long vehicle and you've got a fast approaching vehicle in a lot of cases coming southbound on Stephen Hand's Path. So it is a safety concern, as you've already heard.
Great, just interrupt real quick. I'm going to flip back and forth as you get to a topic so we can look at.
Sure, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, this is an aerial view of the intersection, which is an upcoming slide. So there's also a very large radius on the south quadrant of the intersection. That's actually the southeast, if I stick to what I said with directions. And it encourages vehicles making a right turn from Stephen Hand's Path to go right on Long Lane. It encourages a high speed because it's a large radius and it's not that dramatic a turn. There's flooding and sediment buildup from the storm runoff that flows onto the pavement from adjacent lands to the north of the intersection. And next slide is the aerial view, which I talked about. Probably, if you have the video available of the flooding, we have a brief video which was shot in November of 2020 after a storm. And I believe it's a very brief clip, but we'll try to provide some, you need to load it, I guess, first, right?
So it should be, hold on a sec. So it's not playing?
No.
Okay.
You might have to take this screen share down and bring up the.
It should play through Zoom. Is it on the right? Is it on the wrong screen? Did you have to drag it over to the screen where that's being broadcast?
Yeah, that's what I was. So.
Let me introduce. If you might know about YouTube, are you make YouTube
I have to take the presentation down.
There we go. Hey, all right.
We can see it.
Okay, you can let that, yeah, that'll roll.
Yeah, so this is in that quadrant, and, well, I guess afterwards we'll look at where it's coming from.
Yeah.
and Show you the
Looks
footage
familiar.
first.
Comes off
And we're looking in the south direction. We're looking
off
south,
the
I
old
think, Brendan,
DeMickey
right?
farm.
Yeah,
the
so
north.
this is the east, I guess, and it's kind of a skewed intersection.
Northeast corner.
It's basically the east quadrant. So it's where there's, yeah, if you're considering Stephen Hand's Path, the north-south, this would be the northeast quadrant. So here we go.
Yeah, and you'll see stormwater running across the roadway after a heavy storm. And again, this was 3 years ago.
Yeah, there's about a 20-acre field, I think.
Yeah, the camera's going to shift now,
Yeah, a lot of sediment.
and you can see it's just a muddy river going across the intersection.
Yeah, wow.
So the plan with the drainage would be to connect bioswales and drainage in this location into the previously installed drainage swales that we have just recently completed. on St.
Right.
Anne's Path.
That's correct. On the southeast corner, a little bit south of the intersection on Stephen Hand's Path, there's an inlet that connects south to Route 114, which will tie into the state's project that they're doing there. So that was the town's share, basically, of that project. So that will be a major improvement because it'll capture the water, take it off the road. And there's a sediment basin on the northeast corner proposed. That's on the next slide, I believe, right?
So I guess, yeah, we'll,
Or we jump ahead to that.
I guess maybe. You
So
want to
is
show
that
this first?
the area that's shown?
This is fine.
In the corner that's in green?
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. That's where the problem is currently occurring. And the proposed solution would be to install a bioretention swale, which would have raised beehive grates to allow the capture and, of sediment to prevent it from entering the.
It'll be transferred further down Stephen Hand's Path to the south where the existing recently installed drainage system.
Correct.
That's
Picks
correct.
up. And by the way, we were having Stephen Hand Road closed. That path was closed multiple times a year. I think one year we had a dozen closures due to rapid rainfalls.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to report that even with that tremendous amount of rain that we got recently, we did not have a problem at that lower portion flooding. So that system is working.
That's new.
Yep.
One
I
time
just
I
have a
was out
question
there.
about that. When you direct this into the existing new drainage, that drainage has been designed to accept the additional flow?
Correct. Yeah, so I guess you could call it the northern or eastern furthest limits of that recently installed drainage project. There's like a stub pipe that's basically waiting to be connected to this new project.
We studied the water course, so I think that's what we were getting. So this whole water course was studied. Even if this project didn't move forward, we anticipated a need for more drainage further up in this area. So we made sure the design of the retention and the size of the piping could be able to take more drainage eventually then too. But we said this would be separate projects on there then too. So yes, we studied the whole water course-scape.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And even so, some of this is sorry, excuse me,
go
Ray. I know these projects pretty intimately because we talk all the time. A lot of this is muddy water coming in.
Yeah.
But one of the things about the design of this is that there's actually a cleanout area for mud eventually. And that was built into the design of the 114 drainage aspect too.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. You want to back up to the text?
Yes.
Okay. So just to summarize the advantages of a roundabout at the intersection, the geometry of it will require motorists to slow down, and that's primarily the motorists on Stephen Hand's Path who are exceeding the speed limit with regularity. So they're going to have to slow down. You cannot go through this roundabout at a high speed. Typically, the entrance is designed at about 15 to 20 mile an hour maximum speed. So you have a dramatic reduction in speed there, which will facilitate people making left turns out of Long Lane because they'll make a right turn and then circle around the roundabout. So it's a major safety improvement. The large radius in the southeast corner is going to be eliminated. It's going to be a smaller radius as part of the roundabout. So have improved traffic flow. The oval shape of it, it's not circular because it needs to fit within the available right-of-way. We're trying to avoid property acquisition at this corner to expedite construction and the issuance of a contract for bid for construction. There's no property takings acquired. Roundabout's aesthetically pleasing, we'd like to say. The central island is going to be landscaped with deer-resistant plant species. The oval-shaped truck apron, and a truck apron is the, you want to jump ahead again, is the area in the center there, or the perimeter of that area. So you have, in terms of the oval that's in the center of the intersection, you have a landscaped area in the center, and surrounded by a truck apron, which enables large trucks, if they need to use it. They can mount the curb on the outside of the travel lane there and actually use and ride over the paved truck apron if they need to. I'll get into what size vehicle this is designed for in a bit, but in most cases, that should not be a necessary thing to do. And it also provides space for the installation of the bioretention swell, which we talked about. So that will slow down the water, treat it, and then it will go underground to the south instead of running over the water, running over the roadway as you saw in that video.
I could show the section of that real quick. I think that's next. Yeah.
Okay, you want to go back to the?
Sure.
We'll just go back. So this is the aerial view of the proposed roundabout. In addition to the stormwater or bioswale we talked about on the northeast corner, it's got the mountable truck apron, which you can see there outside the landscaped area. And that center island is designed to be landscaped, but also you'll see it a lot in roundabouts where they raise the island so that you can't physically see around it and try to say, well, I can see all the way around it. I can speed up, why do I have to slow down? In addition to the tight radius, you also have a site obstruction with a mounted landscaped center island of the oval-shaped island in the middle. In addition to that, we've got, I talked about raised and the splitter islands, which as you, on each approach, they're actually paved with granite block pavers.
And the reason why we're looking at granite block pavers is become very similar to what's already on the State Road 114, where they use granite block pavers. Instead of sometimes where we see imprinted concrete, we thought that'd be, we want to be consistent to what's in the areas also then too.
I think the roundabout at 114 in Long Beach and North Haven is similar.
Yeah, they actually have granite mounting curbs also too.
Yeah, and another feature that I really didn't go into, but we talked about vehicles making a left turn, in particular school buses from Long Lane to southbound Stephen Hand's Path. It's safer for them. What they'll be doing is making a right turn. This is true at all roundabouts. Typically, roundabouts will reduce accident severity. So instead of where you have a four-way intersection, you have a chance for the right angle accidents of vehicles traveling at right angles to each other. Those essentially get eliminated. And if you have crashes, they're low-speed merging accidents where somebody from an approach might actually collide with somebody circling around the roundabout where someone does not yield the right of way on the entering roadway. So they're normally fender benders as opposed to the high-speed right angle accidents, which could be severe in terms of injury. You want to talk about the bioswale now? I think that's the next slide.
Yeah, sure.
Specifically.
So just to flip back to the existing conditions real quick, you can kind of see we have this call out right here, just indicating where, that's pretty much where the video starts. So there's excessive overland flow that just enters right through into the intersection. So the plan, as Ray mentioned, we're going to basically install these stone sluiceways at the location where the water enters. So it'll control and direct this like sediment-laden runoff into the bioswales. The main purpose is obviously to prevent it from entering the intersection, but it also functions to capture the sediment. And the water that does overflow through the beehive grates into the drainage system is now cleaner. So let's go to the sections. So in addition to the swale, there's going to be a raised berm. That's like the other shape in plan view that surrounds the swale. So that's just kind of an extra layer of protection in case there's a very heavy storm.
It's like a backstop.
Exactly. And everything will, just worth mentioning, everything will be sloped at like a mowable slope. So this will be able to be maintained if it gets out of control with, grass is getting too tall. So generally, these types of features are designed at 1-on-3 maximum, sometimes even a little less. I think, the final design will develop, but we were thinking a possible like wildflower type,
We want to make sure that's able to be maintained by our staff, our highway department staff.
But yeah, something aesthetically pleasing, just to make it fit in with the natural, rural look of the area.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, next slides are, what you do when you design a roadway is you look at the largest vehicle that you would expect would travel that roadway. And this isn't once a year or once a month, it's like with some type of regularity. So you design for that vehicle in case that vehicle comes, it can circumnavigate the roundabout successfully. So what we've selected based on knowledge of the area and traffic conditions it's called a WB40. That's a design terminology. It's a 45-foot long tractor trailer. So it's a small tractor trailer, not the larger ones, but it's still a tractor trailer. And what you'll see on the next 4 slides are just the turning templates. What we do is we run a simulation of that vehicle around the roadway to make sure that it can accommodate its turn within the roundabout and not have to use, this one actually shows it does use the center turning. It does use the center turning apron. I think on the northeast corner only, or maybe on a couple of corners. But that's what the apron is there for.
Yeah.
And drivers of these vehicles know that they can hop the curb. It's not a very high curb. It's a 3-inch curb, right?
Yeah, 4 inches.
3 or 4 inch curb. So it's not going to tip them over.
Right, and the tightest radiuses are if you're making a right turn from 2 holes going south onto Stephen Hands, or if you're going long lane, turning right and going north on Stephen Hands, correct?
Right.
The other 2 turning scenarios don't really provide any concerns for large vehicles, right? Given their
Yes.
Okay, and then I think the next slide is just a little comparison of a roundabout design we did in the town of Brookhaven. And, you might think, well, town of Brookhaven has Patchogue, which actually Brendan was the lead designer of a roundabout we did in downtown Patchogue. But this is not the similar situation. This is Miller Place, Yaphank Road, and Whiskey Road, which is kind of a rural area because there's DEC property in the northeast quadrant. There's town property, I believe, on the northwest or west side of this, and there's a couple of residential homes around. So it's similar in terms of characteristics of the land use around it. On the left side is the intersection prior to the roundabout, and again, this is an oval-shaped roundabout. What this was, though, was a 4-way stop intersection with a very, very large percentage of tractor trailers. These are 18-wheeler tractor trailers, so they're the biggest size, traveling north and south through the intersection, so that's to the top and bottom of the left-hand view, to and from a major supplier of sand for fill in construction. I mean, these vehicles, you hesitate to go this way during the day because you will get stuck behind one of these vehicles. The volumes are that significant. So the roundabout on the right side was designed and constructed to accommodate both the hesitation that drivers had because of the 4-way stop, and also to make sure that the tractor trailers could accommodate the roundabout with, in most cases, I've seen it, and they don't even use the center turning apron because they don't need to, and these are the largest size tractor trailers. So they're accommodated safely through the intersection, and they do not have to stop. There's time lost as they stop and start and accelerate to get through the intersection. So there's a major improvement in traffic flow. Last slide, I believe, yes, is this is an actual photo, even though it looks a little bit like a rendering, right?
This
is a
is
photo.
probably taken right after it was.
Oh, okay, so it was taken right after, so it's brand new, but it almost looks like a rendering. This is how it was done. The proposed roundabout is similar, except it won't have the lighting in the center of the intersection. You can see a street light overhead, and you can see the black post-mounted lights in the center of the intersection. But you can see the truck apron, and you can see the landscaped island in the middle. I think that's all we have.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's worth pointing out that this has been, I think this was constructed in like 2011. I travel through here pretty often, and it holds up pretty well. I mean, it's held up pretty well given the excessive amount of fully loaded, trucks coming through here, the amount on a daily basis. But yeah, these oval-shaped roundabouts designed with, trucks, with the ability to accommodate trucks, they definitely do work. So I've seen it firsthand. I also saw an accident at this intersection before the roundabout was built with my own eyes, with the car in front of me went through and got T-boned and pushed right into the woods.
I think that's one of the things we're trying to solve at the
Yeah.
location we're discussing right now.
They definitely make it safer.
Well, thank you very much for the engineering aspect of it. I know to the board members, when you start looking at the user group, you could take this down if you want, Brendan, if you don't mind. With the user group of this location, it's not necessarily large, 40-plus size tractor trailers, but it would be, landscaping, trucks with a trailer. Also, what it would be school buses then too. I think the school buses are shorter than what we're designing it for, but what a school bus doesn't have, it doesn't have the engine of a Maserati. So the dart out in front of a car with a school bus just practically doesn't happen at all then too. And school buses, for any parent that has a child that goes to an away game, goes this way. And it's all year long then too. Or anyone going to 114, BOCES first thing in the morning, you keep going, they have to make a left-hand turn out of there too. So that's one of the things, just to slow down traffic calming to be able to allow buses to move forward. Next, I looked at first responders. I contacted the former captain of Ladder 1. East Hampton Town Fire Department has a wonderful, beautiful new Pierce 100 Ascent, I think it's Ascent, 100-foot height, but it's only 42-ish feet long is their new truck, which is actually shorter than their old truck. They have it already, it's being used, and they have he said he has no concerns on the design because of the steering of the front and the back. I also did talk to a former fire chief of East Hampton Fire Department, and he says well needed as far as this location. So we don't believe fire department would have any issues. The main thing they want to make sure is you don't put a sign in the middle of it. So if Sag Harbor or East Hampton had to go through the middle by any chance, then too they can go through without hitting a metal sign. But there's enough area all the way through. So I tried to look at those considerations also in discussions then too. My one I want to make sure is I know purposely what we did on Stephen Hand's path in the 114 project is we increased the siding, if you want to say, from the fog line. We wanted to make sure there was an increased area of asphalt there in the lane size that will allow for safer pedestrian and bicycle use. I think of a gentleman named Dr. Katz. I don't know if you know Dr. Katz. Dr. Katz has been walking in this area. I'm going to go for 35 years every day to work. And I see him all the time. And I see him when I drop off my daughter at 5:45 in the morning. And he literally has light up shoes. And he's known out here too, and I brought this to him also, because he keeps asking me, and Goldberg's all the time. Think about him. So can you just discuss about, are we going to be able to get a little extra width of the road for pedestrians and bicyclists in this area also, where we could connect 114 down Stephen Ham's path to the County Road Long Lane for people to get connectivity to the village?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity to get a little bit wider travel lane in there for the bikes to get it through. Also, Suffolk County in their hike-bike master plan has proposed a bike lanes down 2 holes of water onto Long Lane. That's way in the future. It's a proposal, so that's a planning study. So I think if that project comes through, it could be accommodated by this design.
That's the main thing we want to do. We want to plan for the future here on this. Safety first, but also the future, to try to get people maybe off of cars, but safely biking and pedestrian use in that area, particularly Sag Harbor to East Hampton corridor. So that's all I have.
Okay.
You know,
I just
have one more group to ask a question about, David, farm vehicles. They'll be able to get around the roundabout as well?
I'm going to leave that one to Red. I didn't think about that one. Okay, that's a great one.
You talk about tractors?
Tractors,
or
towing
something
equipment,
larger?
yeah. Yes, tractors,
yeah,
towing
tractors.
equipment.
Tractors, I mean, their speeds are slower, but they will be able to get around, sure. One thing I might add, if we proceed on schedule with this, we're hoping to get the project, I think it'll take about 5 to 6 months to construct. We're hoping to get it out and get it substantially completed by the summer, next summer. So that's the goal. We have the plans. They're probably a little bit more than 30%, actually. We call them 30% because they haven't really been reviewed, right, in detail.
Yeah, they're probably at like a 70, 60,
Yeah, they're probably 60, 70%. So we can make that happen in terms of.
Jason, is Steve Lynch on there? Can you unmute him? I don't know if he has any comments.
No, I tried to unmute. He has to unmute himself. I said ask to unmute, and he's not unmuting yet. If he wants to, maybe he can drop out and then call. Oh, hey, there he is. Steve Lynch, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
All right, great. You're on the air.
Okay, I think this is going to be a great if we do this, because the safety is so bad there, especially with the school, and even in the summertime, people going to Cedar Point and stuff. It's just, we need this so bad. There's been so many bad accidents there that this should eliminate it.
Thank you very much, Steve. So that's, to my board members, that's what our design team, working together with the superintendent of highways, has brought up as a potential solution here. I think we know that there's an issue here. It depends on how do we want to address it right now. So that's, I don't know if you have any questions on design or need or use.
So my only comment, well, not my only comment, but I'm going to piggyback on your farm equipment or your farm equipment. It is a rural area. We want it to look rural. I don't know if you're anticipating lighting, or because I'm probably going to say that the picture on the back of
That's why we took that
our
picture
present.
out.
Well,
Yeah.
it's on the back of the presentation, but I'm fearful of things like this changing the feeling and the character of our community. And so I think safety is a major, major issue, and I'm really happy and have always been supportive of a roundabout here. But I just want to make sure that we make it look as rural as possible and as much
If I could,
as possible.
if I could say something there, you go up to New England, and that's what they use. They don't use traffic lights. They do use roundabouts, and they're all beautiful. They look good to the community. It looks, it doesn't look like it's, all new suburban thing. It looks country. It looks like back in the 1800s, a decorated nice. I mean, I think it will be just fine. It will look better. It's a lot better than having a street light there, and they do work.
Yeah, I think there might be one Cobra light above there, Sylvia, but there's no other plans to add any other lighting.
Okay.
And the cobblestoning again, compared to what you're seeing there.
No, I think that's not pink.
And I'm not sure whether or not you really need a light there, if it's properly signed. I mean, most of the time, you'll see a sign with the rotary, ahead, slow down, and then there'll be a yield sign, I believe, right, at each road intersecting. So the signage is really pretty minimal.
Yeah, but
And I do appreciate, the concern about, keeping the rural character here. But I can tell you, driving that every morning, there's nothing very rural right now about seeing the amount of traffic there and the speeds people are going. And it just, it really doesn't speak to a rural nature now, the way the traffic is. So to calm that traffic down and get it going a rural pace instead of the mad dash.
No, I agree with that.
With people's tempers flaring and, some maneuvers. I took a photograph this past summer of a car that was behind me. And I was, I think, third in line on 2 hills of water trying to get across to Long Lane. And they got frustrated with the person in front not going when they perceived there was time to pull out. The person wasn't comfortable pulling out. They got in the oncoming lane of traffic, pulled up past 3 cars and stopped. And I just had to take out my camera and take a picture of that, because that pretty much says it all at that intersection. It's gotten so bad that, I'm surprised, frankly, we haven't had more serious accidents there, but we should try to avoid one at all costs. So whatever we need to do to move this project full speed ahead, I'm in favor of it.
Being fortunate to have driven back and forth across Ireland many times, where it's very rural. That's how they manage their flow through the villages. And I think I agree with Sylvia. I mean, when you do that red, and you can avoid making them look like they're a suburban or an urban thing like North Haven. I think that fits in quite nicely, just by the type of granite that you use and having being settled rather than loud.
Besides safety, the role in this and the design of it was paramount also then. So knowing that these questions come.
And if I could just maybe ask Steve, the next time he's in New England, if he could snap some pictures of roundabouts you've seen that may be, inspirational for us. And then, I support moving forward with this. It'd be great to have this, in place, substantially in place by Memorial Day weekend. I just ask that we coordinate with the East Hampton School District, because I'm sure it's gonna, with the school buses, parents dropping kids off and picking them up, it would be, if we could just keep them abreast, which I know you always do, so that they could put that in their Google groups, and the transportation coordinator knows that when they're discussing the trips they're taking each day.
Well, I think
that's not a problem.
Not a problem. Yeah, I thank you very much for this discussion as a board members. We'll go back to the internal working group with LK McLean and Steve and myself, and we'll bring back some final design elements based on this discussion on here, and see if we can actually move this one forward for the name of public safety to the town of East Hampton, and visitors also traveling here then too. You'd be surprised. Visitors are probably much more used to roundabouts than residents of the town.
Squaring off that intersection a little bit higher up, the work that you've already done with the highway department, with Steve, squaring off that intersection is so much more helpful, which is a place where I got rear-ended and thrown across an intersection.
Which, while I have Steve here, the East Hampton CAC would love to see where that work that you did there, squaring it off like Kate talked about, if that piece had fog lines, because it doesn't right now. And that would be helpful for those of us that are getting older and our eyesight isn't as great as it once was in the dark.
Why'd you look at me?
I didn't look at you.
I couldn't see.
Look at me.
Ray and Brandon, thank you very much for your assistance.
Thank you.
And to Jim, if he's listening out there also, then to prayers of strength and your healing.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that brings us up to storage policy for fisheries equipment.
Yes, please.
I believe we have Chief Treadwell in the audience here too. Is he here for this as well?
Yeah, I have Chief Tim Treadwell come with me to discuss this. We'll have.
Good afternoon, Chief.
And use this or discussion.
I saw it on.
Sure, buddy. Sounds good. I want to thank the board for listening to the fishing community. Out of the Fisheries Advisory Committee, we targeted an opportunity site to increase our shoreside fisheries infrastructure support. We parlayed the building of the new Westlake Comfort Station into the town's first ever truly built and dedicated fishery storage, which is behind the Westlake Comfort Station. But now comes to a little bit to the difficult part, or not the difficult part, a part where we need to get correct, is make sure how do we actually give opportunities for the fisheries industry to use this site then too, now that it has been completed and ready to go. So discussions with the town slips committee, which is made up of commercial fishing, fishery members and also recreational boating members, we came up with a unified recommendation for this site. Now, everything will be always evolving, but I wanted to go out over that and make sure the public knew about that we're looking to do this site here initially, and then also we'll do Star Island once the construction project is complete at that location. As you are aware, the town board supported funding to develop a new dedicated space for shoreside fisheries gear storage behind the Westlake Comfort Station. This area now has been graded, cleared, millings placed down, and fenced in for safety. The proposed corral design will allow for approximately a dozen, maybe more, 12-foot by 24-foot storage spaces, and maybe even more will be added depending on the final layout. The area will be chained off, and then also we'll have security cameras in there too. While there is a lot of anticipation for this new spaces within the fisheries fleet already, I desire to roll this out in a very logical and methodical process that will ensure fairness, transparency, and open opportunity for potential users. Also about this new policy would be to decrease the historical abandonment of gear at historical fisheries gear storage locations, which the town had to spend nearly $30,000 to do so at Star Island before the project. As part of this process, I'm planning to propose the new gear storage policy at Star Island and at this location. And eventually we'll look at Gann Road too. This program will be instituted and regulated by the Office of the Town's Marine Patrol. That's why Chief Treadwell is here today, as he's been intimately involved in this discussion. The Town Slip Committee has also voiced their support, but stating that they might want to see us a potentially decrease in size to get more corrals for use. We'll continue to look at that. I want to propose this to the town board for your consideration and comments, that the corral holders will sign a license agreement with a set fee of $100 per year for designated corral. The license will be 1 year from January 1st to December 31st. The license is submitted, the licensee would submit a $1,000 deposit to the town that would only be used to remove garbage or abandoned gear if the termination of the said licensee left damage or debris there. That would make sure that the town doesn't get stuck for the removal of gear, which could be very expensive. We would also need liability insurance required naming the town. The rules and regulations of this location would be only storage of fisheries gear related is allowed, no storage of garbage, no hazmat materials, no power or water is allowed. No maintenance of equipment or gear is allowed on site, even though one of the committee members said we might want to allow the tending of nets there temporarily, but not only in as needed portions. No carpentry or welding is allowed on site, no storage of chemicals, no stacking of gear that is over 10 feet in height, and those would be mostly for safety, like lobster pots and such. Also, we don't want them to crash into any fences. All gear has to stay within the licensed corral and not touch any fencing. The town will take no responsibility of lost or stolen gear. Part of this, what we would do is the fisheries gear storage at this location in Star Island will be prioritized for commercial slip holders only. If after the initial lottery for the availability there are corrals left over, the slip holder can request a second corral. If after that second request there is still corrals available, the sites can be open to non-slip holders in a lottery fashion. There will be a one-time initial lottery held for slip holders, which will use ping pong style draw. All applicants will be placed on a master list to help the Chief of the Marine Patrol. Working off this developed list, the Westlake Corrals will be offered first for immediate tenancy once devised paperwork has been received, desired paperwork is received. Applicants will have 1 calendar month from the notice to provide the requested information, or they will forfeit their drawn position. Once the Star Island dock rehabilitation is complete, that area will be cleared and marked, and the new corrals will be offered to the next person on the list if they didn't receive one at the Westlake Comfort Station. If a drawn applicant for the initial Westlake site would like to pass over the Westlake site and wait for the site on Star Island, they can do so, but with the knowledge that they will not be able to take the use of the Star Island site until paperwork is received and is determined by the Chief of the Marine Patrol that the site is ready for acceptance of licensee's fisheries gear post-dock construction. The licensee will have till December 15th of a calendar year to indicate their intention to renew the license corral for the upcoming calendar year. So in doing so, what we're trying to make sure is that, first of all, that we have enough locations that are being used and not abused by leftover abandoned gear, but also it'll be a fair lottery style, first come, first served in that lottery to current slip holders, but also at a nominal fee, but making sure that we have a deposit to remove abandoned gear, which we know is already strapped the town for tens of thousands of dollars recently then too. There is broad support for this in the Fisheries Advisory Committee and the Slips Committee, and I know also within the fisheries community. So I want to bring that to the town board for the discussion, if there's any tinkering to this or anything, and so we can sort of move forward, as I know many people need to get their lobster pots out of the water and get ready for the winter season, and the site is ready. So that's what I had prepared, and it's for discussion.
So I mean, I support the idea of making some shoreside area, available to the fishing industry. We kind of have farmers and fishermen sort of most favored status within the town and try to do what we can to assist their continued existence. I question only that lease amount. I know that our leases run about, for some of the properties, I think we reviewed, in the 40 cents a square foot range on a monthly basis. This is roughly that for the entire year. So I would support having that available, maybe a somewhat higher rate, I think, but still reasonable amount, I think, for 288 square feet worth of storage. We could probably charge a little bit more given the capital investment we have to make. And the discussion would be, at this point, the perimeter is fenced off with chain link fence, or?
It's actually stockade fence.
Stockade.
The perimeter.
So 6 foot or 8 foot high?
6 foot. 6 foot, 8 foot would need a variance. 6 foot chain link, 6 foot stockade fence is already installed. It's installed on the southern area, then also along the Gosman's parking lot.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, the sizes could be going smaller. Typically, you'll have the gear set of lobster pots needing more space compared to tow behinds, long lines, or draggers. Might need
So
a
these
small
would
pallet.
be corrals that would be fenced off?
They won't be fenced off. They'll be marked.
So it's sort of like parking spaces, if you will?
That's exactly right. Yeah, and we could probably get more than we're looking at, but we want to start with what we had, see who wants it. And if the flow works well, because don't forget, we need to get individuals' cars in there, or trucks to bring their equipment in there. We want to make sure there's enough flow. I don't want to overpopulate it and then get in trouble, or over promise.
So how do they get their cars in there?
Right here. So this is the entranceway to the right of the comfort station. You come straight up. These would be the corrals to the left. If we wanted to, we could potentially put corrals to the right. There's almost 20 feet of room there.
Okay.
So there's
And to Peter's point, when he said the capital costs, what do you think the capital costs are? I'm assuming, did we install the fence, or was the fence already there?
We installed the fence. To amortize this is going to be 25 years from what we would get. I think what I would more prefer to do, and as the Slips Committee in the discussion, is to get a nominal charge, but make sure that we provide that that shoreside infrastructure and make sure that nothing goes back on the town later on, meaning abandonment of gear, which we've seen on there then too. So I'm okay with a nominal fee on here or a subsidized fee in a way, because that's what the comp plan asks us to do, to support that. Tim, I don't know if you have any comments on that.
If I may comment on that, first of all, thank you for bringing this. This is a time or a subject which I believe is long overdue. Just so you understand, from the Marine Patrol's perspective, we have had over the years and some enforcement issues with people storing their gear on the docks. And when they store their gear on the docks deteriorate more rapidly, particularly if they're drying their nets on the docks. So if we can somehow incentivize them to get their gear off the docks, so I mean that's where the lower fee. You're absolutely right. It should be worth more, but the lower fee then would I believe create more compliance. And then because part of the problem's always been when it's on the docks or when it's in the parking lot, say at Star Island, everybody denies whose it is. And we don't know whose gear is the garbage and whose. So this would solve that problem, at least. It is very fair, very reasonable rate. But I do think that at both places, at both Westlake and Star Island, having a system like this in place, and eventually Gann Road even, is a good policy. Because it keeps these areas clean too, and it gives us a much better handle on whose gear is whose.
I guess my point was you could double that rate. It would still be a pretty fair rate.
True. That is very true, though. That is true. Yes.
And then the cameras that are going in, we were going to put cameras at comfort stations anyway, correct?
That's my liaison report, Kathy. You got me again. Yeah, so this is actually, this location will have cameras on it. There's already Wi-Fi in the area right now. We will put cameras onto the comfort station, and also solely cameras that would be looking back at the gear storage area if there is any abuse / also misdeeds, if you want to say. And then to follow that up, we're looking at we have purchase orders in right now for many locations for cameras, including Maidstone and Springs, Dish Plains, other areas.
So then I guess the point is that because they're going in for the comfort station for that purpose, extending it is not that much money from a capital investment to add additional cameras to cover the corrals.
It's minor. The largest expense would have been the static IP address, which is being paid for the provider of the Wi-Fi system. So in a way, it's minimal to what we're going to get out of it then too. I mean, I think it's actually $550. That's all.
Right. Is there any other capital costs?
Here? No, there was not.
So it's just the fence and the...
It was the fence and the grading, and the capital costs were approximately, I have the final receipts, are under $70,000.
70,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes the gates for each private?
So there's not going to be gates. It's going to be marked off probably with a cobblestone monument into the ground so people know where it is. Because when you start, you can't mark it with paint because it's just going to get rubbed off by all the metal. So we're going to put monuments into the ground that's not impediments. People would know where they're at. We'll put paint at Star Island, but that's the idea. Mm-hmm. And if we can get more, we'll do more. But again, I don't want to overpromise something. But let's see how this works, and we'll continue to add. Either way, it's 100% more than what's currently there right now.
Did we bond for that, for this investment, or has this been just coming out of the budget?
I think that this actually might have actually come out of SCAV waste, and I can double check on that for everyone then too. SCAV waste or ARPA, one of those two.
Okay.
That'd have been ARPA.
So I'll let if the board's okay with that, I'll send an email circling back to this in the next couple of days, and then we'll see if there's any comments for anyone that might be listening also before we go. But with the knowledge that we'd like to try to move on this probably by mid-November then too, so individuals can start making their plans for their gear storage over the winter time. as our boats come out of the water. I thank you very much again. And Tim, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My pleasure, thank you.
Thank you, Tim, good to see you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you for your help.
That brings us up to our last topic of discussion today, which is a discussion about amending Chapter 95, bicycles, skates, and surreys.
Right, and this came out of the East Hampton CAC. It was a request by them because there's folks are riding their bike and their e-bikes on North Main Street in East Hampton, and it's been cause for concern, and folks have witnessed people almost getting run down by it. So I would love it if Rob could just take us through the changes that we're proposing.
So what's being proposed are a few minor but necessary revisions to Chapter 95. The first is the definition section, 95.1. We're seeing a proliferation of e-bikes and e-scooters in the town now. So the current chapter doesn't define either one of those vehicles. So what I did was I took the definition that's in the DMVs, on the DMV's website, and mirrored it to now be included in the town's code. And then in section 95.3, it's what Kathy was speaking of with North Main Street. Currently, the only places where bicycles and skateboards and scooters are prohibited on sidewalks is in the downtown areas of Montauk and Amagansett. The revision would prohibit those bicycles, skateboards, scooters on the sidewalk on North Main Street between Collins Avenue and Floyd Street on the east side of North Main Street. And then we added 95, subsection C in 95.3, which would prohibit e-bikes and e-scooters on any sidewalks within the town.
Which is a great addition, because we didn't have e-bikes, and we've seen the proliferation, and we've had residents come to us with concerns.
Yeah, I've seen them speeding down the sidewalks on Springs Fire Post Road. They seem to go quite fast. I was wondering if there's a designation where it actually needs a license plate at some point.
If it goes
in terms
over
of speed.
38 miles an hour,
Yeah,
I
it's
think.
it's
It's the cutoff.
Fast.
it's 30, yeah, I think you're right, it's 30.
Well, it's the same as a scooter,
Yeah, it's super
motor
fast.
scooter, so that's,
Yeah, so what I was hoping to do is, if the board, if you have any changes, please let us know. But I'd like to notice this for public hearing on October 19th and then hear it on November 2nd.
Yeah, I
good.
completely support with trying to get definitions and also about adding this corridor, which is, again, one of the most, it's a very busy commercial area. It just makes sense to become consistent.
Yeah,
So
people come
does
out with
this,
shopping carts, et cetera.
does this chapter of the code actually date back to like the late 19th century, early 20th century? I mean, it talks about
Do we need a Surrey in there?
Surrey, yeah. Should we maybe amend that? Because my understanding of what a Surrey is, it's a four-wheeled vehicle, usually doorless with front and rear seats.
There's the definition is here on page 3.
The one in,
and drawn by horses.
this one has pedals on it, and I have seen, weird vehicles with a bunch of
Yeah,
people
we've seen the
pedaling.
pedal bar and pedal trolleys or
Pedal
whatever.
trolley, pedal bar.
So,
And Peter, once you remove that, you're going to have somebody come in next meeting. East Hampton Surrey Company.
the Surrey lobby.
I agree with you.
Let's keep it
And it'll
there.
have cup holders.
In a beer tap in the
No,
middle,
I think
right?
that's good.
Yep.
Okay,
Scurry away.
all right, touche. All right, well, that brings us up to liaison reports.
Okay, I have a quick
have one
one.
for us?
So the Community Housing Advisory Board, CHAB, met last Wednesday, and they discussed their roles and responsibilities and signed off on that document. They discussed term limits, and, it's an annual appointment, but the chair was trying to get an understanding of the type of commitment folks were willing to make time-wise. They also discussed conflict of interest. They don't fill out the financial disclosure forms that other appointed boards do, but they just felt that because there's folks in the building trades and the real estate trades, that there should be some type of conflict of interest document. And John Chilnicki attended the meeting and was going to draft one. And then they just continued to discuss and fine tune their grading sheet and criteria. So it was a very robust discussion, and it's a very highly functioning committee.
There's a couple capital projects updates I wanted to give. The YMCA roof and HVAC project is underway. 2/3 of the roof has been rolled and sealed, and the roofing contractor estimates 4 to 5 days left on the upper roof. Then they'll move to the lower roof by the end of beginning of this week, and they're going to be coordinating with the HVAC contractor for removal of equipment to be replaced. There's also an HVAC project happening at the Montauk Playhouse, and Nelson and Pope obtained the schedule of work from Eastern Industrial, and they'll be removing the pavers to begin forming the concrete pad on October 13th. And then we had to because of the construction that's going to take place at the for the aquatic center, we needed to change the front doors and put in a handicap accessible door, with the electronic opener for the Montauk Playhouse in the front. And unfortunately, that ADA compliant electronic opener, as well as the pool entry doors that we're installing at the YMCA, which are the original that need to be replaced, we're having supply chain issues, and they've been delayed a couple more weeks. But James Pincott was confident that the Montauk Playhouse doors will get done before the work gets started on the aquatic center. And then I just wanted to state next Tuesday, October 17th, we're expecting R2 architecture firm to be here. I think they're going to be doing it remotely, actually, to give a presentation. We're at 100% design development, so we need to move forward and see if the town board is in agreement with where we're at so that they can continue to do designs and get construction documents ready. And then I've had some outreach, some folks looking to give presentations at the November 14th work session, because it's hard to believe that we're going to go from October 17th to November 14th. It's a long time not to have a work session. But Eleanor Whitmore Early Childhood Center would like to come in and give an update on their programming. And Sylvia, I'm sure you're going to be touching on this, but the folks from that are working on the Wainscott Green, they would like to give a presentation on the pavilion that they're proposing and the fundraising they're doing there, and also the project that Hampton's Pride is working on. So that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Kathy.
Just to keep following up on the security cameras, yes, Eddie Schnell, working with Eddie Schnell, we're looking at multiple locations in the township to make sure that we have security cameras at some of our parks and also some of our outlying comfort stations where we've seen historical damage going on. I look to have those in place by spring of '24. As far as the 395 Panago Affordable Housing Project, we've gotten comments back from the state about curb cut. We are adjusting to those and preparing to hear back from hopefully a final vote from the planning board. And we might be able to get to a groundbreaking by maybe month's end, so which is great news on there, a ceremonial groundbreaking. I want to let everyone know that I want to bring to the town board for a discussion in November prior to the springtime to potentially add Stephen Hand's Path to our concession and allowable peddlers locations. Right now it's not, and right now it's being used by a large amount of people year-round right now. And so I've been working with Rob on this. We'll bring that back to the town board maybe in November sometime, so they can move that ahead, which will be great. We have to put that in the town code, become allowable locations. It's easily done, but I just want to make sure everyone knows. Recreation, the turkey fun run is still upcoming. Don't forget that you can sign up on the town's recreational webpage, and also, which will link you to Elite Feats in order to sign up for that. Lastly, I have a message from the Director of Regional Government Relations from the New York State Department of Transportation. She contacted and let me know that the New York State DOT recently received a 30-day emergency authorization to fell hazard trees on Route 27 in Napeague, which I knew, let everyone know about. The DEC did that last week. During the long air bat roosting period, the New York State DOT is currently working with their contractors to establish an operating plan. They anticipate work to begin, she tells me next week. What that meant this week. So they're looking to actually start felling trees, particularly in the right-of-way this week. And I will continue working with the state agencies as far as the parklands and those operational plans moving ahead into. But a little bit of good news, and I thank Peter for assisting me with moving that ahead, and also Assemblyman Thiel. And that's all I have.
Thank you, David. Sylvia?
The Waynescott CAC met, and the first topic was really the Waynescott Gun Club. They appreciated Chief Sarlo coming to a meeting and answering questions and explaining the need for a police firing range. If it's allowed to go forward, the police firing range needs to be made safe and somehow or another certified that it is safe for the public to accept it, or at least the Waynescott CAC to accept it. There were several comments made about the gun club. Greatest number of people need to benefit from this town-owned property. Another member said that the CAC understands that it's an important convenience for the police department, but maybe not a necessary for the police department. They would like a full public discussion on any consideration for the land, and if a lease is being contemplated by the town, it should have a full public hearing. And I agreed to keep them apprised as much as I could without interfering with any legal negotiations going on, and that we would certainly, the board strives for full transparency on leases and issues like this. We also discussed some upcoming events and talking about the special presentation on October 28th at the Amagansett Life Saving Station. And they were very interested in having and listening to David Cataletto for a special presentation about the history of rum runners and the Coast Guard. East Hampton was at the center of bootlegging and rum running for the New York City during Prohibition. Local fishermen became smugglers at night, secretly transporting thousands of tons of illegal hooch into hidden coves and harbors in the dead of night. Violence from the criminal outfits erupted in our previously quiet town, and the forgotten story of the rum runners' war with the Coast Guard is one not to be missed. So it is October 28th at 6 p.m. at the Amagansett Life Saving Station.
And it wasn't just rum.
Well, they just said rum runners. I don't.
That's the generic term for it, but
Right.
they were running a lot of other types of whiskey
hooch.
and there is a place in Montauk called Chin Beach.
For a reason.
For a
Now I know the reason.
There you go.
So, and as I said, the speaker is going to be David Cataletto, and he is on the education committee at the station. Amagansett Station, teaches middle school history and English, and serves as an East Hampton trustee. So thank you, David, for putting all of that together. All of the members on the call or on our Zoom meeting were sent the presentation that was given to us last Tuesday by our outside counsel, Nick Regano, in regards to the airport Superfund site status. And Mr. Regano, and then all the members received an email from another former member stating a lot of inaccuracies from that presentation. So I've been working with Nick, and Nick said and sent me an email that I could recite to them. Nick says that this, and so trying to correct this misinformation. So other people may have heard things that actually, and this was sent to over 1,000 people. So it was also not just the Waynescott CAC. A statute that is applied to the New York State DEC Brownfield program is what this email was referring to, not the Superfund sites, also known as an inactive hazardous waste site, like the one in East Hampton. The correct law at the New York State DEC regulation is Part 375-2.10, and I can also give this information to Rob if he needs it. The regulation puts the citizen participation obligation on the New York State DEC, not necessarily on the town of East Hampton. And under the regulation, the New York State DEC's obligation primarily arises from the New York State DEC as they select a proposed remedy as discussed on Tuesday. East Hampton is in full compliance of that citizen participation. The pertinent data that the Town of East Hampton has collected is attached to his presentation. If people want to go back and look at the presentation, the town prefers we can also post all final reports and tables and figures submitted to the New York State DEC on the town's website. Notably, the original remediation investigation schedule and what was referenced in this email got derailed by COVID, as well as unanticipated laboratory delays and supplemental investigations and New York State DEC review delays. So again, that was all stated, I think, at the meeting on Tuesday, just to be clear that the town of East Hampton is in full compliance. To the extent...
Thank you for double checking all that and making sure
Yeah.
that the facts are stated right now.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah.
It's so hard sometimes outreach out when there's misfacts spread
Yeah.
to a large contingent of residents or individuals and too. I thank you very much for bringing that back to the board today.
Sure. So to the extent that the CAC or any of its members would like to be added to a contact list, they should email Nick Regano with their contact information, and he will forward that to the New York State DEC. So
do we really want our folks going right to our council? I think they should contact us and we'll collect that information.
Yeah, I mean, the CAC really should use the liaison as conduit.
Yeah,
In fact, that's
yeah.
our stated policy.
it's to use,
Rather than having CACs reach out directly to any outside individuals or.
so I will make
if
sure
you
that
could be
they
the conduit,
understand that they
yeah.
can send their, if they want to be on a list, they can send it to me.
Yeah, they have to give you their home address and their phone number.
Yeah. So, anyway, that was part of our discussion. Beach Lane, and I want to thank Kate for her email that she sent. There has been some pavement settling on Beach Lane after the cable construction had been completed. Steve Lynch and Kevin Cobb are working to coordinate with Orsted to correct the situation, and therefore their performance bond will not be released until that has been corrected. The CAC also commented that there has been a lot of runoff and ponding on the sides of the road on Beach Lane, which is part of where parallel parking is. And so...
That's a perennial problem there.
yeah, but this has resulted in the grass that they had is not there anymore.
Right.
So,
Muddy potholes
Right.
prior to the project starting. So, I mean, that's, like I said, that's a perennial problem. I have
They're
photographs going back to, multiple times that the trustees had done the beach work and to move sand, and so.
they're also bound to a certain percentage of
Right.
of growth.
Of
So
growth.
they'll be down checking that, and
Okay.
again, we won't release their performance
Right.
bond until they reach that percentage, and that's also part of their state permit.
And we had also talked about maybe finding some sort of permeable type of paver or something to place on the shoulders, because we know that people are going to park there to go to the beach.
Once they do,
It
they
is
wipe out.
parking,
and they're allowed to park.
grass, yeah, and grass is just not going to hold up over time, so,
The ruts just
yeah.
become gutters,
yeah. It's close to groundwater, doesn't drain that well. You have
and it compacts it down when
the fields there as well, so.
So yeah, thank you, Kate, for that and for staying on top of it for any of the answers. We all received a letter from the CAC regarding traffic concerns and traffic calming recommendations. So if you guys have any comments on that, and I'll be working with Steve Lynch to find out if there's, and Chief Sarlo, because some of these things are intertwined. We also discussed the 2024 budget. There were no questions asked. We talked about ordinance enforcement in the presentation that was given on Tuesday. There were no questions asked, so I think everyone was pretty satisfied with both of those issues. The Wayne Scott Green, the proposals for the structures honoring the swamp and its history to the town of East Hampton, they're asking for November 14th to give that presentation. The Wayne Scott CAC members saw that presentation on Saturday, and with the Tom House and with the architect, Gustavo, and his last name is escaping me right now. But anyway, they would like to see what the town board feels. And there are a lot of comments that were given that day also at their presentation. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Sylvia. Kate?
Yes, I have a brief liaison report this week. First, I want to remind folks that the Springs Citizens Advisory Committee is sponsoring a forum on drinking water quality. There's 2 speakers, one from the Suffolk County Department of Health and Theodore Aponte from the Suffolk County Water Authority. Mr. Hine from the Department of Health will be discussing findings from Suffolk County Department of Health tests of private wells, including emerging contaminants such as PFAS, PFOS, and Mr. Aponte will discuss the characteristics of the water distribution system and challenges to hooking up to public water. The forum will be at the East Hampton Public Library on October 16th at 6 p.m. And if you're interested, please sign up at the easthamptonlibrary.org's website. Secondly, I just would like to quickly discuss, last Thursday, we had a public hearing on the amending the zoning code 255-111, purposes of zoning, and I would just like to discuss moving that forward to adoption. I reviewed all the comments that we had on the purposes of zoning, and Rick Whalen's comments from 2 businesses that are located on Springs Fireplace Road had suggested an additional purpose of zoning to be included. I looked through that and I have a couple of comments on that. One is, well, I think that an appropriate place for denoting what industries are maintained in town should be in the actual commercial code section. When we get to that point, after reviewing the, as you know, the Springs corridor study will be in the future presented to the town board and to the public, and I think we should get those comments first before looking at any code revisions for that area. But as far as the purposes go, I think the point of the purposes is to reflect the goals of the comprehensive plan, and there's a section in the purposes that states that promotion of businesses within appropriate districts and in harmony with adjacent districts is part of the plan already. So it's part of the purposes already. So I look forward to your comments and to move forward to adoption on the purposes.
Thank you, Kate. I just want to start by taking a moment to acknowledge the tragic and horrific events that are unfolding in the Middle East. It is a really sad and troubling situation. I know a lot of people are very concerned about it. Always were concerned about war and aggression wherever it occurs. There is going to be on Wednesday at 6 p.m. a rally in support, and that is being sponsored by the Jewish community, East Hampton Jewish Center, along with Temple of Us and excuse me, I've lost the, but that will be at 6 p.m. You can join virtually as well. So if you want to participate, you can do so in person or virtually.
And the person is at the Jewish Center of the Hamptons, correct?
Yes, thank you. Jewish Center of the Hamptons, in conjunction with some other synagogues. On a happier note, I attended last Wednesday the Senior Nutrition 49th Annual Luncheon at the Legion, and staff put on a wonderful event. We had a DJ. Kathy and Kate both attended. The food was great. The camaraderie was great. It was a very enjoyable afternoon luncheon. And I commend our staff for putting that on and the great job they did, and the site committee as well. Next year, I plan on attending the 50th, although maybe as a private citizen. The 375th anniversary parade is scheduled to start on Saturday at 10 a.m. If you're participating, if you signed up to do that, you need to be there by 9. Rain is in the forecast again,
No.
and it's very troubling. I think if we have to cancel it for rain, we probably won't be able to reschedule that parade for this year. We've had, takes quite a bit to put on a parade and to coordinate schedules, DOT state permits, the Suffolk County Showmobile, coordinating with 2 police departments, the village. And actually, this time around, it's a little easier. It's mostly the village, but we're not going all the way to the high school. It will start at the traditional parade location and by the Presbyterian Church and go to Railroad Avenue. There will be a reviewing stand planned for Herrick Park. And as I mentioned earlier today, Chief Robert Farrow of the Montaukets is our Grand Marshal, will be leading the parade. I stopped by the Tyler Valchik car show, memorial car show, in search of convertibles, because the car that we had arranged for the chief to ride in was no longer available due to the cancellation and other commitments of the owner. But I did find a number of willing convertible owners. But again, that's going to be dependent upon whether or not we have clear weather. I'm not going to make a call on whether or not the parade will go till we see a little bit, we have a little more information and see how the weather develops. It's supposed to rain on Saturday and Sunday and be beautiful before that and after that. So I'm hoping the system will go slow walk across the country or speed up, but it's probably a 2-day event, rain event. So hopefully it'll just be delayed in arriving. So we'll be making a call on that later this week, but everybody pray for clear skies for the morning of the 14th. We have a meeting coming up tomorrow with Brooks Park on the Brooks Park topic with our outside preservationist, Michael Devonshire, and outside engineer, Drew Bennett. Scott Wilson from Land Management, and Sylvia, I think, are you going to be joining us with that? So we'll be discussing next steps with Brooks Park. As you know, we adopted the management plan for that property, and now next steps are to move forward on restoration, reconstruction as necessary. And I have an upcoming meeting also. The mayor's office, Mayor Tillotson in Sagaponack would like to meet with me to discuss a memorandum of understanding for the maintenance of Town Line Road. As you know, Town Line Road is just that. It's the town line between East Hampton and Southampton and Sagaponack Village. There are no less than 3 different designations as to who's responsible or who owns what part of the highway. I believe south of the highway, that road is owned by the town of East Hampton to the center line, and Sagaponack Village on the western side to the center line. However, the history of maintaining the road is different than that. I understand from Steve Lynch that we maintain the portion north of Route 27 and the portion, I believe it's from south to Wainscott Main Street.
Yeah.
So we just want to try and iron that out as to responsibilities, and look forward to meeting with the mayor to hear what he has to say about that. And that pretty much covers my liaison report. So at this point, we have a few resolutions to do. And then I think we have a couple topics to discuss in exec session.
Great. So I have Resolution 2023-1348. It's approval of the warrant. Claims total $3,447,524.62. And the utility warrant totals $35,242.85.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
I'd like to offer Resolution 2023-1349. This is a refund for the Behan Memorial donation to Cheryl Clevin in the amount of $175.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
1350 is authorized to transfer from the John Behan Memorial Reserve and a budget modification where we're looking to get needed installation of parts for a water tap on the park. We're transferring $365.27. So we're increasing the revenue line in that amount and also the expenditure line.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
1351 is the tree risk assessment course for Andy Drake. This will be for a tree risk assessment qualification course, November 14th to the 16th at the New York Botanical Garden in the Bronx. Upon vouchers, financial costs should not exceed $1,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
I have Resolution 1352, and while we were up here, I was handed an amended version, so I'll read that into the record. The amount on the original resolution is the same, but I believe how it's being distributed is different. So whereas it has been determined that certain 2020, 2021, and 2022 invoices from the Rayner Group remain outstanding, and whereas through an evaluation and review of past and current invoiced projects, the unpaid invoices are as follows. One, for project 3485, there are 3 invoices. One dated June 2nd, 2020 for $570, one dated July 3rd, 2020 for $665, one dated November 3rd, 2021 for $1,298.75. And then for project 3493, there are 2 outstanding invoices, one dated November 1st, 2021 for $95, one dated December 21st, 2021 for $380. And then for project 3498, there is 1 outstanding invoice, and that is dated December 21st, 2021 in the amount of $190. For those 3 projects, the total is $3,198.75. And whereas the remaining funds from purchase order 2022-1961 in the amount of $6,220 be available to pay the outstanding invoices. Project 3485, invoice dated November 30th, 2022 for $2,492.50. One invoice dated January 6th, 2023 for $2,310. For project 3493, there are 2 outstanding invoices, one dated November 30th, 2022, in the amount of $225, one dated January 6th, 2023, in the amount of $160, and for project 3498, there are 2 outstanding invoices, one dated November 30th, 2022, in the amount of $190, one dated January 6th, 2023, in the amount of $150. The total for those 3 invoices are $5,527.50. Therefore, be it resolved that the payment in the total sum of $8,726.25 for outstanding invoices for services to the Planning Department during the mentioned year shall be paid to the Rayner Group, and therefore be it also resolved the town will pay the outstanding invoices from the appropriate budget account upon properly submitted voucher.
Second as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. All I can say is outstanding.
That's a lot of outstandings.
Yeah.
Resolution 1353 is to approve a change order, one for NIPA LED lighting, and whereas the town entered into agreement with the New York Power Authority to replace its current inventory of streetlights with LED lighting, the town has received change proposal number 1 from Guth DeConzo Construction Management, Inc. to New York Power Authority, advising that a credit of $39,365.35 for the removal of 31 decorative fixtures from the proposed scope of work on North Main Street. Whereas a result of the following, the town will be credited $39,365.35 for the material and labor associated with the modification. Be it resolved that the change proposal number 1, and it should say number 1 after the number sign, is hereby approved for a credit of $39,365.35.
Second as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
And I have finally Resolution 23-1354, and this is to amend Resolution 23-1302. Be it resolved that 1302 authorize the change order number 2 from New York Power Authority advising that the labor rate for LED street lighting fixtures have increased since the submission of the original proposal. Resolved that Resolution 23-1302 be amended to read change order 1, okay, and all other aspects of the resolution to remain the same. So I guess there's a difference between change order 1 and change proposal 1, which was mentioned in the last resolution.
Yes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Any additional resolutions?
I do not.
Entertain a motion to go into exec session.
I make a motion to go into exec session to discuss CPS, real estate acquisition, personnel, and advice of counsel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Shall we reconvene at 2:45?
Sure.
That's fine.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, be well, everyone. Thank you, LTV.